Hello, hello, hello. See if I can get this big old head in focus where I want it. Hello, hello, hello. What up, Nikki? Hope y'all having a good Monday. Appreciate you being here. Man, I miss y'all. How the kids doing? I missed the kids. Red was asking about the kids the other day. I hope they doing good. And everybody's doing good. And you and Anthony's doing all right. How you doing, Sister Wonder? Glad you're here. I'm going to get my spectacles cleaned. And I'm going to jump on to this lesson tonight. Because for my introduction, I'm just going to go over what we covered last week. Because, of course, this is part 2 this week. So I'm just going to go through, for my introduction, I'm going to go over what I went over last week. And we're going to start with tonight's lesson. Get these spectacles cleaned up. So how's everybody doing? I hope y'all having a wonderful Monday. What's today? Today is the 11th, April 11th. Easter almost here. We got Good Friday coming up Friday, and Easter next Sunday. So that's a blessing. That's good to hear. I'm so glad the kids are doing good and everything. I'm always praying for y'all. So that is good to hear. So, like I said, how's everybody doing today? Hope y'all having a wonderful day, a wonderful Monday. It's been rainy. I don't know if it's raining down in Nashville, but it's been storming off and on here. What's going on, Big Aaron? Good to see you, my brother. I hope you're doing good. But it's been storming off and on here. The electricity was out for a while, so I was under thinking I might have to end up doing this tonight from my vehicle. But the electricity came back on. So it was good. So I can be here with y'all tonight. So it worked out. God worked it out for me. And I got this lesson ready for you. And I hope y'all ready for it. So, of course, it's going to be part 2. Continuing with the discussion we had from last week. Looking at the lives and the world. Looking at what the world is going to be like. What the world is like when there is no king on the throne, when God is not the king on the throne. Of course, I'm John Stewart on behalf of River Lake Baptist Church, on behalf of the Lost Sheep Ministry, here to bring y'all this lesson tonight, continuing part 2 of when God is not king. So again, like for the introduction, I'm just gonna go through. Y'all remember we started this because we get to the end of Judges. Y'all been following me along. We've been the first part of Judges. We did the vicious cycle, and then the last section we did when the last judge we looked at was Samson, and now we're actually not going to bring any more judges in, and it's really just kind of give us a preview. A view of what was going on during the time of those judges when God was not king. And, in each version, each chapter says there was no king in Israel. So it's talking about how, there was no king in Israel, but really God was not the king in their hearts. See, God was supposed to be the king of Israel. That's why Israel had no king. They were never supposed to have a king because God was supposed to be king. But as we're going to see as we go through these chapters, we saw at the beginning last week where this guy Micah, he had made these idols from some money that he had stole from, where his mom made some idols from some money that he had stole from his mom. And and this is going to continue to snowball down. But these last 5 chapters, because it's funny, the first 5 chapters, you kind of see what they were going through because they had got away from God. But these last 5 chapters really going to show you the mindset of everybody and what everybody was doing and what they was going through because there was no God at the time. They had removed God off the throne. And I just talked about it. And as we go through these lessons and we go through these points, you should be able to see these things going on in our world today. And that's why I'm glad that we got into this part. Number one, I'm excited about doing this lesson because everything I'm talking about, all these points that I'm bringing up are things that we can see around us every single day, things that we can see happen, especially when we get into the story tonight. We're going to see some craziness, some foolishness that's going to go on tonight. And these are things that happen when we don't have God on the throne, when God is not king. You know what I'm saying? And of course, we don't know God is always king. But when I say he's not king, he's no longer king in our hearts. He's no longer welcome in our homes. He's no longer welcome in this country. He's no longer welcome in a lot of the churches. A lot of churches don't teach godly principles. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're talking about. What is society? What would society look like if there was no God like they wanted? And that's what they want. They don't want God, and we're getting there. We're getting close to there with all the craziness that's going on. But there's still a few faithful ones that's willing to protest and speak out for the word of the Lord. And that's why I think this country hasn't been destroyed yet. But how much longer can we hold on with these few that we got? Because it's few and far in between. What's going on, Ash? I'm glad you made it here tonight. I appreciate you being here. So that's what we're looking at. What happens when God is not king? So, of course, last week we went through chapter 17, and we came, it was 9 principles that you see that I talked about, things that's going to happen when we remove God off the throne, when God is not king in our hearts, like I said, in our hearts, in our homes, and in our lives. When God is not present in those things, there's some things that's going to happen. And there was 9 things that we saw last week, and then there's about 11 that I saw from this chapter. 18 because 17 was a small chapter. 18 is little bit of a longer chapter. So there's about 11 things that I saw for this week's lesson. But I'm trying not to belabor it. I'm trying to stay within my time frame. But I do want to go through this because I want y'all to see how that's why it's so important for us to keep God in our lives. That's why it's so important for us as Christians and people that claim to be servants of God, that keep going forward and doing our part, then to get the gospel out there. Because once we get to that point where the gospel is just completely gone and they've removed God, these are the kind of times that we're going to be living in, like the things that they was doing in this time when it said that God has no king. But the 9 concepts, the 9 concepts that we covered last week, things that happen when God is not king, like I said, when God is not on the throne of your heart. Number 1 was we value material things over the well-being of others. And we see that all the time. I gave some examples, people that work at tobacco companies, people that work at beer companies, people that work in bars, and people that build bars. All these things are things people are doing to get money because they're not worried about how those things affect the people that is using those, the alcoholics, the people that's addicted to tobacco, the people that got cancer because they've been smoking cigarettes their whole life. There's somebody somewhere more concerned with with getting money than they are with the well-being of their brothers and sisters. And that's what happened when we don't have God on the throne, because God's business is people business. So if you really love the Lord, you really love people, and you want to do anything or put anything out there that will possibly bring harm to people or the environment, for that matter. But when we value material things over the well-being of others, it shows you that God is not king in our lives. Number 2 from last week, we are disrespectful or disobedient to parents. And, and of course, I talked about how disrespecting and disobedient these kids are these days. Like I said, everything I'm talking about, y'all can see. We've seen it happen time and time and again. The kids these days have no respect whatsoever for their parents, and the government is making like that. I mean, if you spank your child or do anything to try to discipline your child, even if they're misbehaving, you'll be the one that get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that happens because the Bible says if you don't spank your child, you don't love your child. You know what I'm saying? But the government said if you spank your child, then you're a terrible parent. You see what I'm saying? So they want us to go with their concept instead of the concept that God has given us. And that's why we got all these disrespectful kids these days, kids that don't listen, and kids are just, really, you look at the youth, you got some good ones out there. Of course, it's not all of them. There's some good ones out there, but for the majority of them, they just act like animals. They just don't care. That's why I said last week, I could not be a teacher in the school system this day. I would be in jail because I've went upside one of these kids' heads for their little disrespectful mouths. You know what I'm saying? But that's something that happens when God is not on the throne, when God is not king. Number 3 from last week that we went over, we don't put any effort into truly knowing the Lord. Our relationship with the Lord is casual. And I see that so much, especially with my ministry and with going out and talking to people about their relationship. It was casual. If I get some time, I might read my Bible, or if everything worked out perfectly, then I might go to church. Nobody really puts effort to a really working and having a close relationship with the Lord. And of course, we saw that from the story last week where the lady said she gonna praise the Lord, and she praised the Lord by going and making an idol, which is one of the main things the Lord said that's like the first rule: don't worship anything other than the Lord your God. Yet she took and made an idol something that's going to be worshipped. And we're going to actually see that idol that she made, how it's going to come into play into the story tonight, and how it's going to lead others astray because of something that she did because of her lackluster relationship with the Lord. She didn't really know the Lord, so she did the very thing that the Lord wouldn't want to happen. So again, number 3 was last week, when God is not on the throne in your life, when he's not king, people will have a casual relationship with the Lord. Nobody will really put forth the effort they need to really get to know the Lord. Number 4 from last week, we corrupt our lives and the lives of everyone around us. And again, we saw with this guy Micah, set up this idol, and then he, had his son as one of the priests. So he was corrupted. His mama corrupted him, and he was corrupting his son. And it goes on and on and on. When God is not on the throne of your life, you live a corrupt life, and 9 times out of 10, you corrupt others into doing the same things that you're doing. Everybody that's around you, you affect everybody around you, and that's going to come up again tonight as well. Number 5, we don't leave any hope for our future generations. They won't have a solid foundation to build on. And again, we was talking about just how Micah, again, he didn't have a solid foundation. His mama didn't build a solid foundation for him, and he didn't leave. It's Micah, Micah. Ashley, we're gonna be in Judges 18. In case you're wondering where we at, we was in 17 last week, and we looked at this guy Micah. So again, his mama didn't leave a good solid foundation for him. He didn't leave one for his children. And if we don't do the same, if we don't continue to press forward to get this word out, and we let the social media and this world silence us, then there's not going to be a future for our future generation. I got grandkids now, and I wonder what the world is going to be like. And look how fast it's declined in just these last 20 years since 2000 come around. So I worry about what it's going to be like by the time they get 20 to 30 years from now, by the time they become adults. I hate to see what's going on if it keep going in the trend that it's going, which is we've been going for the last few years. So then number 6 from last week, we make our own standards according to the wickedness in our hearts. In other words, we don't do whatever the Bible say don't matter. If we want it, if we want to do it, and it feel good to us, we do it. And that's what our society become. They forget, they've completely thrown out what the Bible say about a lot of issues. They completely thrown out what the Bible say, and I try not to just harp on homosexuality, but it's just one of the biggest ones. It's easy to talk about. They completely thrown out what the Bible says about it and says it's okay. Transgenderism and wearing things that pertain to the man, and the man, woman, wearing things pertaining to the woman, they completely thrown that out and just say, oh, it's okay. It's not a big deal. We make up our own standards according to the wickedness that's in our hearts. And again, we're going to see that come to play as we go through the story tonight. Number 7 from last week, we're more concerned with being where we want to be instead of being where we are supposed to be. And we saw how this Levite came along, and he came across this guy Micah. And again, as a Levite, he's supposed to be one of the leaders in the faith. He's supposed to be the one that's leading people toward the Lord. And he's going to actually come and stay with this man and start working as his priest, helping him further worship this idol, so to speak, make him almost legit because he actually have a Levite as his priest. So again, he was doing that because he said he was looking for somewhere to go. He said he was looking for a good place to live. In other words, he wasn't looking for somewhere he can go and serve the Lord. He was looking for somewhere he can go and enjoy himself. And because God was not on the throne in his heart, that's what happened. He was more concerned with being where he wanted to be instead of being where he was supposed to be. As a Levite, again, he's supposed to be, right now, the temple hasn't been built yet. Judah hasn't been established as the nation where the Lord is going to place his name yet, but they do have the tabernacle that Moses had built, had constructed or whatnot, and that's where the Ark of the Covenant is, and that's where they're supposed to go and worship. And we're going to see that actually come up again tonight too. But again, that's where the Levite's supposed to be at. He's supposed to be wherever the tabernacle of the covenant is at, and he's supposed to be there serving, but instead he's out looking for somewhere that a good place to be because he wanted to go somewhere and stay where he can enjoy himself instead of doing the work he's supposed to be doing. So number 8 from last week, we become a nation of blind followers following blind leaders. And of course, we saw again, we got this Levite who's supposed to be one of the teachers of the church, who's supposed to be teaching people about the commandments of God. And he was sitting here being a priest for this man Micah. Now, Micah, had an excuse. He wasn't a Levite. He didn't know any better. He was just doing what his mama taught him. But the Levite should have known better. And because the Levite gave in to his demands, then that made Micah assume that it must be okay. If a Levite to do it, then it must be okay for me to do it. So you had a blind leader, a blind follower following a blind leader, because obviously this Levite didn't have God on the throne of his heart, or he wouldn't have been there in this situation where he was this priest for this man and got them worshiping these idols. So number 8, we become a nation of blind followers following the blind leaders. And then number 9, the last concept that we covered last week is we are more concerned with what God can do for us instead of what we can do for him. And we saw toward the end, the guy Micah, he was so happy that he had the Levite that he was like, now I know the Lord would bless me, Michael said, because I have a Levite serving as my priest. So he's expecting God to give him this blessing because he got a Levite serving, but he's not even serving the Lord the way he's supposed to be doing. So again, these are all things that have happened, and I'm pretty sure y'all have seen them. Sorry, y'all. Every time I get to talking, my nose get to itching. I feel like I'm just playing my nose right in the camera. I'm sorry, but my nose get to itching like crazy every time I get to talking. Yeah, must be going to kiss a food. But it says, but these are things that, again, if your eyes are open at all, if you have any wisdom of God and any wisdom, knowledge of the Word of God at all, you will see that these things are constantly going on around us every day. And there's some more concepts as we get into chapter 18. There's some more concepts that we're going to come up with that, you should be able to see. As we're going through this lesson, you should be able to open your eyes. You should be able to see that these things are really happening in your world, because this world has really gotten away from the Lord. So again, I know I kind of went through that fast. If you wanted to get a little bit more detail on it, go back and watch the video from last week. I think it was a really great video. So, of course, it's posted on my Facebook page. When God is Not King, part 1. Go back and watch that if you want to get a little bit more detail so you'll kind of understand what we're talking about here tonight. We're going to have a couple of references from last week's lesson, but most of the points tonight are brand new points. We do have about 4 or 5 references, but most of the points from tonight are brand new points. So I'm going to go ahead and pray so I can jump into this, because I want to stay within my time. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us today. Thank you for letting us, allowing us another week here on this earth. Another opportunity to come here today, Lord, to go through this lesson with your people, Lord. I thank you so much for putting this lesson in my heart. I thank you for letting your spirit come down upon me as I prepared this lesson. I always pray for your spirit's guidance when I put these points together, and just let the spirit guide me through the words so I can pull out the wisdom contained in these words, Lord, so I can show it to people so we can see how important it is. When I was putting this together, it took me back to my very first sermon I ever did. It was called "Is God Your King?" and it was based out of these chapters. That statement that was made where in those days God there was no king in Israel. And I think back to that, and I'm kind of doing it from a different perspective, but the same concept. We should once we of course we know we're supposed to choose as Lord and Savior, but you should also be King of our lives. You should also be Lord of our lives, and we should want to live our lives by your concepts and your principles, so we can do the things that you have for us to do, Lord. And I pray that as I go through this lesson tonight, you let your spirit work on the heart of the people that's watching this video to bring them under conviction if they're not doing the things they supposed to be doing. They're not being in the place they supposed to be. Bring them under conviction so they may do so. Help them see how important it is to have that close relationship with you, but have you on the throne so you can guide their steps so they can really truly be successful in this life, Lord. So I pray you just let your spirit guide this session tonight. I pray you let your spirit work upon my heart and give me the wisdom that I need to share this as I share this word with your people. And I pray you let your spirit work upon their hearts as well so they may receive this word and use it to build a closer relationship with you. We just ask you to continue to bless us and guide us in the direction we need to go. And once again, thank you for this opportunity for us to join together and discuss your word, because wherever 2 or more gathered in your name, you're there in the presence. And I pray that for your presence as we go through this lesson tonight. We love you so very much. Thank you for all you've done and given. And I say this prayer in your wonderful Son, in Jesus' name. Amen. Oh, man, my nose. I don't know why that happens. It's so weird. Hey, Miss Jeannie. I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you being here. Got my whole crew, my usual suspects. I appreciate y'all really being here, man. That's definitely a blessing. I'm trying to stop scratching my nose, but it's every time I get to talking, I start itching like crazy. And I'm not going in the nose, y'all. See, it's just like the tip of my nose. It's so weird. So again, we're talking about what would society be like, because that's what they're pushing for. They're pushing for a godless society. You know what I'm saying? If we didn't have God, how we regulate ourselves, how we determine right from wrong. And the thing is, we won't determine what's right from wrong. Everybody would just do whatever they felt that they wanted to do. If it felt right to them, they would do it. That's why, you got people turning men, turning to women, and women turning to men. And you know what I'm saying? And you got the legalization of things that God said is an abomination. And you got the casinos everywhere. And you got, porn. You pretty much can't even watch TV. I hate watching TV with my kids these days because the commercials and everything is so sexual. It makes it awkward, and that's what happened when you have a society without God. And we're getting to that point. I've told y'all before, over 51% of people, a majority of people in this country no longer go to church. You know what I'm saying? The majority of people no longer believe in God. So we're getting to that point. And that's why I'm praying. I pray all the time for some kind of spiritual revival, for the Lord to come back and bring us back before it's too late and we get past that point of no return if we haven't already. Because that's what happened with Sodom and Gomorrah. They got past that point of no return. And God will give them one more chance, and they blew that. And what happened? They got destroyed. And I know I'm saying in America, we've had it so good for so long, and we've never really had to, it's been a long time since we really had to fight for anything or be in anything. And if we don't get back to getting our hearts back to God, we're going to lose all these blessings that God has given us. And we're going to revert back instead of going forward. And it's not going to be happy. We're not comfortable in the good position. Most people are not happy and comfortable in the good position that we're in now. So you can imagine what it's going to be like when we lose all this stuff, when we lose all the blessings of God, we lose all this grace on our lives. And that's why I do these lessons that hope, because I can only do so much. Of course, my ultimate goal is I want to save the world. So I would love to save the world. But the way you save the world is by doing your part. I don't know how many people actually on here, but I see 4. So I'm preaching my 4 little people that I got here. And there's me doing my part. And hopefully y'all will take whatever you learn tonight, something maybe touch your heart, and you something you learn tonight, and you take it to share with others. And that's all that we can do. Pray and do our part to build God's kingdom. And that's why I do these lessons. So tonight we're gonna be in chapter 18. I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm kind of scratching my nose. But we're gonna be in chapter 18. In Judges chapter 18. And of course, again, the lesson is part 2, when God is not king. And of course, I'm reading out the New Living Translation. I am a King James believer, and I read both versions. I actually got a couple of spots tonight that I'm going to reference back to the King James, because the way they translated it kind of took a little bit it took a little bit of that stank off of it, if you know what I mean. So I'm going so I read both versions, but I do believe in the King James, but I like to read from the New Living Translation for my ministry, make sure everything that I read is being understood. So I'm going to start off in chapter 18, verse 1. The Lord tells us this. It says, now, it starts off with this same concept. It says, now in those days, Israel had no king. So it's like, because if you read these chapters, these last 5 chapters, like I said, there's some weird chapters. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in these chapters. So there's some weird chapters here, and we're going to see a little bit of it tonight. You know what I'm saying? We saw with Micah, that was kind of a weird chapter, like, seemed like common sense things that they should know if they had any inkling of a relationship with the Lord. And we're going to see a little bit more of that tonight. So I believe that's why it's always starting like now, like it's almost like the Spirit was warning us, like, all right, this is going on, but it's because there was no king. You know what I'm saying? So, and it started off, now in those days, Israel had no king. So it's almost getting us a warning, like, you finna hear some crazy stuff. This is going to be crazy, but it's because Israel had no king. Because God was not on the throne in their lives. So start on verse 1. The Lord tells us this. It said, now in those days, Israel had no king, and the tribe of Dan was trying to find a place to settle, for they had not yet driven out the people who lived in the land assigned to them. So the men of Dan chose 5 warriors from among their clans who lived in the towns of Zorah and Eshtaol to scout out a land for them to settle in. So it's actually 2 points there. I could have stopped halfway through, but I wanted to read it all together. But there's 2 points that I see, the 2 things that happen when you don't have God on the throne in your heart. Number 1, is the first point tonight, but it's actually number 10 in the series. Number 10 is this. This is one, when I talk to people, and I try, I talk to them about, and I tell them about the Lord, and I do this, and I try to help y'all be our relationship with the Lord. This one right here is one of the main reasons why I do that. Because this one right here, this concept right here is something that people don't see, and a lot of times they don't even realize. And that is this. You miss out on all the blessings the Lord has in store for you. We do not realize how much of God's grace, how much of God's goodness that we're missing out on when we're not serving Him. You know what I'm saying? We do not realize how much of God's goodness that we're missing out on because we're not serving Him. When we out there in the world and we're drinking and we're smoking and we're partying and we're hooking up, we're thinking we're living our best lives, and we don't realize that's our worst life. That's our worst life right there. You don't realize that stuff, all that stuff you're doing right there, that's temporary. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, your flesh might feel good for a minute, but man, the blessing that comes from God, the peace that comes from God, we don't realize how much we're missing out on. Because you see what it says. He says, so now in those days of Israel, in those days, Israel had no king. So they didn't have a relationship with God. He said, and the tribe of Dan was still trying to find a place to settle, for they had not yet driven out the people who lived in the land that was assigned to them. See, that land, they had land assigned to them. They had blessings waiting on them, but they couldn't get to their blessings because they didn't have God leading them to those blessings. And that's what we don't realize. We think we're having fun and we're living our best life. Oh, I got money in the bank. I remember at my point, I think I told y'all this before. I remember there was a point in my life, I actually was ignorant enough that I thought this. I like, man, as long as I got food in my refrigerator, gas in my car, and weed in my blunt, I was happy. That was all I needed. You know what I'm saying? I felt like my life was fulfilled as long as I had those things. And I was so ignorant at that point when I was believing that. You know what I'm saying? That's why I do this. I tell y'all, I'm not just, preaching to y'all, I'm preaching to myself. I lived like that at one point. I lived in that situation, and I didn't really understand how much I was missing until I started serving the Lord. And that's why I try to tell people, like, man, the blessings that come, the peace that come, that peace that passes understanding, you don't understand how important that is until you get into that peace. You know what I'm saying? When you get, because you're so used to living in chaos, you don't understand. It's just like, I know y'all know I talk about my dad all the time. And you know what I'm saying? Anybody know me know I've always been a happy guy. You know what I'm saying? I always a pretty go-lucky guy. But I didn't realize how miserable I was as far as like health-wise until I lost all the weight. Once I lost all the weight, now, when I look at my old pictures and I even think about back when I was like, man, how was I surviving? Like, how did I not just kill myself? Like, I was so miserable compared to when I compare it to how good I feel now that I've gotten away from all that weight. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't see it because I never knew what it was to be, nice and actually healthy, eating healthy food. I was always shoving junk down from the time I was, and of course it started off when I was in Memphis. I was, when I was in North Memphis, I was poor, so I can only eat what I can afford. And junk food is cheap. It costs to eat healthy, especially these days. If you're gonna be healthy, it's gonna cost you. You know what I'm saying? So I thank God He put me in a position where I got a job good enough where I can afford to eat healthy. But I couldn't always eat healthy. But now that I've been eating healthy these last 5 years, and it's so crazy because I have every so often I have a cheat day where, you know what I'm saying, because you have to, your body get used to eating good all the time and it slows your metabolism down. So you have to have a cheat day. So I have a cheat day, and it's so weird because when I have that bad day, I can feel it. Like, I feel so miserable the next day. Like, oh, why did I eat that? You know what I'm saying? And I know why I ate it because I had planned on eating it. But at the same time, I can feel that I know the day before. I can tell by the way my day goes. I can tell by the way my workout goes. The workout after my cheat day is always the worst workout I have the whole week. Because it's like I'm working that bad stuff back off. You know what I'm saying? Now, and when I was living in it, when I was eating bad food all the time, it didn't bother me at all because I didn't know that I was miserable. And that's what's happening. We don't know that we're miserable. If you're not living for the Lord, you are living in misery and don't even realize it because you live in that misery every day. You don't even realize the blessings that you can have when you really give your heart to the Lord. The blessings that come in the peace that you have. You know what I'm saying? You don't really understand that. And I remember, I've heard Brother John tell this story before, but that was like this man. And it's like this. It's a story. It's a perfect illustration for this point right here. There was this man, he had died, and he went, he went to heaven. And, and of course he was on his way to heaven, so he was saved, but he still had felt, God kind of slighted him a little bit. He like, man, I prayed for all this stuff in my life, and, I was always acting, I always wanted these things. I worked hard to get these things, and I never seemed to be able to get the things that I wanted. So he like, well, I'm going to ask God about it. So God would give him a tour of heaven, one night, walking around with Jesus, give him a tour. And he kind of brought up, like, Lord, I worked hard. I was a good person. And, I expected to have certain things, and I never really got, certain things that I thought I would have. So Jesus like, all right, well, let me show you something. So he took this guy to this warehouse, and he goes to this warehouse, and it's this warehouse, and it's just packed. I mean, it's packed with stuff from wall to wall, boxes and crates on top of crates. So the guy got to looking through these crates and all these boxes in this warehouse, and every time he looked at a box, it was something that he always wanted from his life. It was something that he always wanted, something that he always wished he had. So every box that he went through, he found something that he wanted. And he was like, what, Jesus, what's going on? Like, as I look through these boxes, this is everything I ever wanted in my life. He said, yeah. And I had them sitting here waiting for me. But guess what? You never did ask me for them. See, you never asked me for them. What did he say? If you ask, you shall receive. See, before I started serving the Lord, I never realized that all the working I was doing, I've told y'all before, I worked 100 times, 100 hours a week. You know, I worked 2 and 3 jobs. I was putting myself to college. I was doing all these things. You know what I'm saying? And that's the one thing God asked me when I confronted God, Lord, why is my life so rough? Why am I going through all this thing? The Lord like, you know, have you ever asked me to take care of any of these problems? Have you ever asked me to help you provide for your family? Have you ever asked me to provide these? No, you trying to do it on your own. And see, when you don't have God on the throne of your life, that's what you're doing. You're living your life trying to do everything on your own, and you don't realize that peace that comes from under the peace that passes all understanding that come in when you have that close relationship with God, and you just get those things to God. Y'all remember when David was on his way to go fight Goliath? You know what I'm saying? Saul like, boy, you a fool to go try to fight him. He's been you're only a kid, and he's been in the army since he was a kid. And what did David tell him? Like, man, I'm not worried about that dude. Just like the lion and the bear came and took one of my sheep, I caught them by the jaw and killed them. I'm gonna do the same to this Philistine, because it's not my battle I'm fighting, it's the Lord's. See, that's what I understand. These problems that you fight, these battles that you fight in your life, that you're going through, whether it's addiction or financial trouble, whatever, these are God's battles. But see, if you don't have a close relationship with God, then you can't give those battles over to the Lord. See, David had a close relationship with the Lord. That's why he wasn't worrying about fighting Goliath, because he already knew the Lord had his back. And then when he says, I'm not worried about this dude, because this ain't even my battle. This is God's battle. See, you missed it. You missed out on the opportunity to give your problems over to the Lord. See, you can't give your problems over to the Lord if you don't have a relationship with the Lord. If the Lord is not sitting on the throne, but when the Lord sitting on the throne of your life, you give him, I still have problems. You know what I'm saying? Y'all might think I don't. You know what I'm saying? I might make this look easy, like I'm just doing all good. But no, I have problems all the time. I'm always going through some stuff. I'm always having some issues I'm having to deal with, whether it's my issues or the issues of somebody in my ministry or issues with somebody that's close that I love. You know, so I still have issues, but guess what? I do my part, and I pass them on over to the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And let the Lord take care of them. And that's what we have to do. And we don't realize we're missing out on the opportunity to do that because we don't have a close relationship with the Lord. See, Dan, know they had some land they were supposed to have. You know what I'm saying? It said, again, who lived in land that was assigned to them. See, they had blessings assigned to them, but they couldn't get to those blessings because why? Because what the first line say? Now, in those days, Israel had no king. They couldn't get to their blessings. They couldn't get these people out of their land because they didn't have a relationship with the Lord, so the Lord can lead them to those blessings they were supposed to have. And that's what we gotta realize. When we're not hurting God by never having, because with this, I think we're so arrogant. We feel like, oh, we're not gonna worship God and He's gonna be all sad. No, we don't need God. God don't need us. We need Him. You know what I'm saying? Like I told y'all before, if some days I just got upset and burnt out or whatever and just turn my back on the ministry and decide I'm going to go another route and start making money for myself, guess what? All he'll do is raise somebody else up, give them the same grace he's giving me so they can do this work. The work is going to go on. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be the one miss out. All these blessings, all this protection I've had in my life, all these things that God has given me, they're going to slowly melt away because I've turned my back on the very source that gave me those blessings in the first place. And that's what we don't realize. If you really want the blessings on your life, you really want to get that drama and that chaos out of your life, you got to have a close relationship with the Lord. That's the only way you're going to be able to do those things. Because if not, all you're going to do is keep missing out on all the blessings that the Lord has in store for you. God don't want us to be down here miserable. He don't want us to be down here struggling. He don't want us to be down here, worried. What did Jesus tell him? He said, why worry? It don't even add an inch to your stature. Why are you worried about things? That He didn't make us to worry. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to be down here. Our job is to worship and glorify Him in all that we do. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you might have to work to get the things that you have, but you get God glory in that work. You see what I'm saying? And that's what we got to understand. That's what we're made to do. We're made to worship and have a close relationship with Him. And if we do, He'll provide us with all these things. He has blessings in store for us. He has things that He want to give us. But guess what? God's not going to give you those blessings if you're not going to use it for His word. And if you don't have a close relationship with Him, then guess what? Most likely, if He give you those blessings, then guess what you're going to do? You're going to use it for yourself. You're going to use them to benefit yourself. You're going to use them to put yourself ahead of other people. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to use them to build his kingdom, and that's why you're not getting those blessings. He has them for you, but he gotta make sure you, like, I'm so glad that I grew up broke. I'm so glad that I'm you know what I'm saying, I've had to struggle with money all these years, because until I gave my heart to God, had I had that money, had I had those nice things, all it would have done was kept me away from the Lord. I know for a fact that it would have kept me away from the Lord. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until God took everything from me and humbled me and got me down on my knees that I realized, oh, I need you to be successful. I need you to be happy. I need you to have the good things in my life, the good things in my life that'll never fade away. That's what you got. That's what you get. Because like I said, you can go do the worldly things and you'll get some things, but you're not going to be able to keep those things. We're going to see that in the lesson tonight. But if you want some stuff that can't be taken away from you, that'll never fade away, only way you're going to get those things is by having a close relationship with God. And that's what we don't realize that we're missing out on. We don't realize how many blessings we're missing out on by not having a close relationship with God. So you got to make sure that you have a close relationship with God. If not, you're going to miss out on your blessings. And that's why I said there, they still, because they had no God in the land, basically saying they still hadn't even got the land that was assigned to them. There was blessings assigned to them, and they don't got it because they don't have a close relationship with God. Then the second part say they sent some men out. It said so they sent the men to Dan out, 5 warriors among the clans who lived in the towns of Zorah and Eshtaol, to scout out land for them to settle in. So number 11 is this, and this is number 11.2 for the night. But number 11, no stability. When you don't have God on the throne in your life, or when God is not king in your life, there's no stability in your life or in your home. See, what was they looking? They still, it said again, it started off, there was no king of that, so they hadn't been able to settle. You know what I'm saying? They haven't had a stable place for them to live. They were still wandering around doing this and that. Didn't know where they were supposed to be. Didn't know if they was going to be. Didn't know they're going to have a place to stay the next day, because they hadn't settled in their land yet. They haven't got the blessings of God. See, that's what happens when you don't realize we out here partying and doing all this stuff. We don't realize that stuff is not stable. It'll last for a little while, but eventually it's going to fizzle out. You know, like when I was back to selling drugs and I was living my best life, when everybody was around and we was partying and drinking, oh yeah, I was the man. I was the life of the party. I was having a good old time. But guess what? When everybody had left and, you know what I'm saying, I was there by myself, I was miserable. Because the only time I was happy and in a good mood is when I had those people around me and we was doing all that, those worldly things. But as soon as those things was gone, my people was gone, and I was just stuck with myself, being really looking and reflecting on myself, I was a miserable person. You know what I'm saying? I didn't realize it was because this whole time, because I wasn't serving the Lord. And that's when I realized that's how you get stability in your home and in your life. You got to have a close relationship with the Lord to have that stability. You know what I'm saying? That instability, you know what I'm saying? And it's weird because, I'm sorry, y'all, my nose is just itching me today. It's weird because, you know what I'm saying, you don't see it when you're in it. And that's why I'm bringing these points out, because you can't see it when you're in it. But when you get out and outside the box and you get to the next level, you look back, you're like, man, that is insane. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I told y'all before, when I was living my old life, I rarely did sleep. I can barely sleep because I was always worried about, you know, is somebody gonna come trying to rob me? Is somebody gonna come trying to get my money? Is somebody trying to mess me over? You know what I'm saying? What my girl doing? What it is? I don't have to worry about none of that stuff no more. You know what I'm saying? Baby, I know when I get home, most likely unless my wife out running some errands, she gonna be here. You know what I'm saying? I know that unless there was some kind of accident or something like that, something outside my control, that at 4 o'clock my kids gonna be home telling me about their day. That's stability. I know, you know what I'm saying, my daughter, she's got into archery. I know that unless something major happened, that God's will and nothing major happened, I'm going to get to go and support her at her archery tournament. You know, one of them going to be in Louisville, Kentucky, and I got to take a 6-hour drive. Might have to get a hotel room. I know darn well I'm not going to get up 6 hours before and make it there on time. That's not going to happen. Let's be real, you know. But I can do those things. I don't have to worry about being able to do those things because I have a stability in my life now. You know what I'm saying? I have a job. Matter of fact, this job that I've been in, and I started this job I'm at now, I started 8 years ago. And this is when I moved up here is when I really started preaching. And guess what? Just so happened, this is as long as I ever stayed in one area. You know, our kids, when 5 years, usually we never stay anywhere longer than 5 years. You know what I'm saying? We was always about every 5 years, God will move us somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? And we've now been here. Matter of fact, this week, Easter week, makes 8 years since we've been at this church, River Lake Baptist Church. It was Easter Sunday 8 years ago in 2014 when we first walked into River Lake Baptist Church. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because I have stability now. Because I really started doing the work that God had before. I wasn't really I love the Lord. I was telling people about the Lord, but I still wasn't really doing the work that the Lord had for me to do just yet. So I still didn't have the stability just yet. So that's why I was rolling every 4 or 5 years. I was moving from job to job, place to place. But we've been here now 8 years, you know, unless God change something, you know, I don't know how long I'm going to be here because I never know what God has planned. But I know I've been at this job longer than I've had any job, and I've been in this town longer than I've been in any town or in any spot longer than I have, and I have that stability now because I've been doing God's work since I've been here. These 8 years I've been here, yes, I've been here for 8 years, but I've been doing God's work for 7.5 because it took me a few months to get my feet under me and you know what I'm saying, and figure out the ropes, so to speak. But I've been serving God ever since the beginning of 2015. I've been serving the Lord, and now I've been here for 8 years, the longest we ever been anywhere. You know, my kids even joking. You ask my kids, they'll joke about like, cause I remember when year 5, it's 5 years, I guess we're gonna be moving. And when year 6 rolled around, they're like, man, we ain't never been here nowhere this long. It's because we had that stability now, because we're doing God's work. And see, that's what you got to realize, man. If you always going back and forth, you always from one place to another, and you always here and there and everywhere, and it seems like every time the wind blows, you going with it, that's because you don't have that stability, because you don't have that close relationship with the Lord. See what I'm saying? The relationship with the Lord, it brings stability in your life. You won't have to deal with the drama all the time. You won't have to deal with the chaos all the time. You won't have to deal with uncertainty. You know what I'm saying? Like I told you, of course, everything is according to the will of God, but you know what I'm saying? But I don't have to deal with uncertainty. I know as long as God don't take me home, then I get up in the morning with my wife right beside me. You know what I'm saying? As long as he don't take her home as well. You know what I'm saying? That's something I know. I know I got my vehicles out there, got gas, and that I can get to work. I don't have to worry about trying to find a ride to work. You know what I'm saying? I know my job's going to be there because this company I'm working for, you know what I'm saying, they deal with lithium and things of that nature, so business is booming for us. You see what I'm saying? Stability, certainty. I don't have to worry about none of those other things that other people have to worry about. See, the Israelites, they didn't have no king. So they couldn't find no place to settle because they didn't have that close relationship with God. So in other words, they didn't have any stability in their life. So if you want to get stability, if you're tired of being on that roller coaster, if you're tired of always going up and down and round and here and there and there, I told my kids, I said, man, life, I said, well, if you're not serving God, I said, life is like this. Life is not a straight line. I told my kids, I said, life is just kind of like this. You know what I'm saying? But when you serve the Lord, it brings some stability to that. And you know what I'm saying? So instead of life going like this, which is what it seemed like it goes like this. You know what I'm saying? It goes up and down, but it's a lot smoother than all this craziness right here. And that comes from having a close relationship with God. And we see, because they didn't have that close relationship with God, they didn't have any stability. So that's why they didn't have anywhere that they could stay. They didn't have anywhere that they can call home. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have anywhere that was stable. They didn't know, again, they didn't know where it was going to be at from week to week because they had no stability in their life. And that comes from having a close relationship with God. So number 10, and like I said, these 2 points, you miss out on all the blessing that the Lord has in store for you. God has blessings for us. He doesn't want us suffering, but he's not going to give them to you unless he knows you're going to use it for his kingdom. And number 11, there's no stability in your home or in your life. So we see those two. So the next verse it says, so when these warriors, so of course they go out, they trying to find some stability. You know what I'm saying? So and they need to go and try to find a church somewhere, but instead they're going to find something else. So it says, when these warriors arrived in the hill country of Ephraim, they came to Micah's home and spent the night there. So they just happened to come across this guy Micah, this guy Micah's house while they was out there on their journey. So it said, noticing the young Levite. Now, if y'all remember, now y'all might know, if y'all didn't watch last week's video, you're not going to know what we're talking about. But again, I told y'all in the review earlier, there was this guy Micah that basically set up some idols in his house, and he had a young Levite just happened to stop by, and he ended up making this Levite his priest. So if you didn't watch last week's video, you're not going to know what it's talking about here. So I hope you watched it. But it says, noticing the young Levite. So they see this young Levite. So again, you're going to tell from, matter of fact, let me read it, and y'all be able to tell something. So it says, noticing the young Levite's accent, they took him aside and asked him, who brought you here? Now, if I don't know if y'all can see it in your Bibles, but in my Bible, it's kind of exciting. Like, what are you doing here almost? Like, why are you here? Like, you know, they know that he's out of place. So it says, noticing the young Levite's accent, they took him aside and asked him, who brought you here? What are you doing here? Why are you here? You know what I'm saying? Because they knew he was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. Matter of fact, that's a reference back to number 7. Because remember, the reason why he was there is because he made an agreement with Michael to be there. So number 7 from last week was we're more concerned with being where we want to be instead of being where we are supposed to be. See, they knew him being a Levite, he was supposed to be in Shiloh, which is where they held the tabernacle was at, set up at, which is where the Ark of the Covenant was at. And that's where the Levites are supposed to be at. So for him to be way out here in this foreign land, you know what I'm saying? They knew, like, hold on, this is wrong. This guy's not supposed to be here. They knew that because they knew he was a Levite, and they knew as him being a Levite that he should have been at the tabernacle in Shiloh teaching the people the laws of the Lord. So they knew he was out of place. You know what I'm saying? They knew it immediately. Like, hold on, this is a Levite. What is he doing here kind of thing? So that's a reference back to number 7 from last week. See, he was somewhere he was supposed, he wanted to be instead of being somewhere he was supposed to be. Because if you remember when the Levite was there because he was looking for a good place to live. He wasn't looking for a good place to serve the Lord. He was looking for a good place to live. So he was looking for some enjoyment and some pleasure. Let me go find me a beach front property somewhere and lay up on the beach. That's what he was concerned with. He wasn't concerned with doing God's work. So when these people are Dan, again, these are supposed to be God people. They children of Israel. So even though they're not serving the Lord, they had a casual relationship with the Lord, which is what we talked about last week. Even though they had a casual relationship with the Lord, they still know enough to know that this man is not where he's supposed to be. So then he tells them, so again, they put him aside like, bro, like basically like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. Why are you here? So then he told them in verse 4, he told them about his agreement with Micah and that he was Micah's personal priest. See what I'm saying? So even they knew that was wrong, which means he definitely knew he was wrong because he's a Levite. So with that being said, that take us to number 12, point number 12. This is another thing that happened when you don't make God your king. When God is not king, when God is not on the throne of your heart, you will easily agree to doing things that you know you're not supposed to do. You will easily agree to doing things that you know you're not supposed to do. Like if the people of Dan knew that he wasn't supposed to be there, he definitely knew. So why did he agree to be this man's priest? But not only did he agree to be this man's priest, he agreed to be this man's priest and help this man worship idols. So he knew there was something he wasn't supposed to do, but yet he did it anyway. Why? Because God was not on the throne. God was not on the throne in his life. You know what I'm saying? He said, again, in the beginning it said, now in those days, Israel had no king. See, God was not their king. So he was doing what he wanted to do instead of doing what he was supposed to do. Why? See, that's what happened. I tell people, like, I think I mentioned y'all before. I'm sorry, y'all, couldn't scratch my nose, but it's itching. You know what I'm saying? I told y'all before, you know, I talked to, I do drug counseling on Thursday at the Hope Center over here in Camden, you know, and that's one of the things that I tell the guys, like, look, I know addiction is hard. You know what I'm saying? My mom was addicted. I watched her be addicted to crack since I was, you know, since she's been addicted to crack since I was a baby almost. Since I was about 8, 9 years old, I watched her, you know, basically give her whole life over to drugs. And I said, you know what I'm saying? The only way you're going to break that addiction is by getting close to the Lord, whatever you're dealing with. If it's alcohol, if it's drugs, if it's women, if it's money, whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever it is that you have in your life that's pulling you away from the Lord, the only way you're going to get close to those things is about getting closer to the Lord. That's the only way you're going to do it. That's the only way, because if not, whenever that flesh comes to calling, you're going to run to it every single time. Because that's what happened with this Levite. You know what I'm saying? His flesh came to call it. He wanted a good place to live. Obviously, and we're going to be able to see as we go through the description of the land that it was a good land. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? The guy like, man, instead of doing all this work and having to go serve at the temple and serve all the people of Israel, I just had to serve one person. So it's easier. This guy's giving me money. You know what I'm saying? I'm basically get to do what I want to. Oh, yeah, I'm going to take it. See, he easily agreed because he gave into his flesh. You see what I'm saying? Michael didn't even have to convince him that much. He just made him an offer. And we're going to see, because he's going to make another, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but he's going to make another decision to show you just how worthless he really was. Because he was more concerned with doing what he wanted to do instead of doing what God wanted him to do. And see, that's what happened. When you don't have a close relationship with the Lord, you will easily agree to do things that you're not supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? That's why it don't bother me. Yes, I don't drink anymore. You know what I'm saying? I don't smoke weed anymore. But it don't bother me if I end up in a situation where I'm around people that's doing those things. because I've already made up in my mind I'm not going to do those things. And you can't come and convince me to do those things. And I'm happy. Come on, man. Have a drink with me. Have a smoke with me. No, I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, you go have your fun. I'm not judging you, because most people, when they doing something they're not supposed to do, they don't feel comfortable unless you're doing it with them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, look, I'm not judging you. That's just not my thing. Why? Because my relationship with the Lord is more important. This ministry here is more important. And I know if I do those things, and I might be able to do those things, get away with it, nothing happen. But at the same time, there's a possibility I can do those things and it can completely take me out of the will of God. And I go and do something out of character, or do something that I'm not supposed to be doing because I got under the influence of that weed or that alcohol. So I just stay away from it. You see what I'm saying? But I think I told y'all when I first started, I've always been honest with y'all, so this shouldn't sound no shock. But I remember when I first started talking about me first coming to the church, before I really started preaching and before I got into the ministry, I can tell the Lord was pulling me that way. And you know what I'm saying, when I came to the church I was at was Middle Tennessee Baptist, huge church, had a lot of people serving, everybody soul winning and all that. So I didn't really have to do anything because there was always somebody there to do the work. Well, fast forward, I ended up at River Lake Baptist Church, and, we got like 20, 30 people that's there on a regular basis, you know what I'm saying? And most of them is kind of up in age. I'm not going to say they're old, they just up in age, so they can't do as much as they used to. So there was a big need for a good young person to come in and do some work. There was a lot of work that needed to be done, So I didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, well, it was some things that I was doing that was really keeping me from doing the work. So I went to the pastor one time and I talked to him. And there was 3 things that I was doing at the time that I just felt that kept me from truly serving the Lord. One of them was I cursed all the time. I had the mouth of a sailor. I was still bad about this. Still, you know what I'm saying? I had that going on. I was smoking weed at the time, and I was watching pornos at the time, So I just felt like it wasn't right for me to go and try to do God's work, and I know I'm doing those things, And I went and talked to my pastor about it one day. And I told her, like, man, look, these are things, long story short, these are things I do. I said, you know what I'm saying? I do them. I'm letting you know ahead of time because I can tell you want me to do more work around here. And I can tell there's opportunity for me to do work. I said, but I do these things. So if you don't want me doing these things because you're thinking to mess up the work, then I won't. I'll just step back and I just stay, a member of your church because I like the church. I said, but if you're okay with it, then I do whatever God will have me to do. And he looked at me and said, I'm okay with it. And I was shocked when he said that, like, really? And I asked him, like, why? He said, because the fact that you told me that you're doing those things let me know that the Lord is already working on your heart about them because you felt convicted to tell me about them. He said, so when the time comes, I guarantee you that you're going to get those things up. And guess what? As I got closer to the Lord, I gave those things up. So guess what? I don't smoke weed no more. I don't watch porn no more. And I don't curse as much as I used to. We got to take baby steps. I still got to work on that because these kids get to me every now and again, and then my flesh get the best of me. But I gave those things up because I started doing more work for the Lord. And I realized how doing those things, the closer I got to the Lord, I realized how doing those things was keeping me away from getting as close to the Lord as I could get. So I gave those things up because I wanted to be closer to God. So you got to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? You got to give up because when you close to God, you're not easily pulled away from the Lord. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be tempted. Look at what happened with Jesus. The devil tried to tempt him. He was out 40 days and 40 nights, no food, no water. And what it say? Then the devil came and tempted him. But he was so close to the Lord that the devil his plan couldn't work. You know what I'm saying? Anybody, like I said, you need 40 hours. 40 minutes without food and water. You know what I'm saying? I'm be willing to take anything that come my way. He was out there for 40 days and 40 nights. And I fast twice a week. And it's not a bragging thing, but I do what is called an intermittent fast, I guess. I go 24 hours without eating. So, matter of fact, tomorrow is my fasting day. So once I get through preaching tonight, I go in there, I eat dinner. And then once I get through dinner tonight, I won't eat again until dinner tomorrow. So that's only 24 hours. And I'm telling you, by the time dinner tomorrow come, I'm foaming at the mouth like wanting some food. Like I'm like starving. You know what I'm saying? So that's just 24 hours. He was out there for 40 days and 40 nights. You know what I'm saying? And yet he was able to finish that task. He was able to complete that task. Why? Because he was so close to the Lord that the Lord told him to go out there and fast. So he went out there and fast. He didn't want to do anything to mess up what God had for him. He didn't want to do anything to mess up God's will for his life. And that's what will happen to you if you put God on the throne. You won't have to worry about those women that's out there jumping in your inbox, or those guys that's out there jumping in your inbox. You won't have to worry about the alcohol that's constantly calling you to come back, or the weed that's constantly calling you. You won't have to worry about those things because you're closer to the Lord, and you don't want to do anything that's going to take you out of God's will or possibly mess up your testimony. That's why I'm not going to say I don't have the urge to still do those things. I still want to smoke weed. I have weed dreams, which is weird. I ain't smoked weed in over 3 years, and I still have dreams about smoking weed. You know what I'm saying? So I know that the desire is still there, but I don't do it because I want to please the Lord more than I want to please myself. See what I'm saying? And that's what happened when you have God on the throne in your heart. You more concerned with pleasing the Lord than pleasing yourself. As we can see, this Levite wasn't. He was more concerned with pleasing himself. That's why he was there in the first place. That's why when the people of Dan saw him, they're like, man, what are you doing here? There's no, why you shouldn't even be here. Why are you here? That's why they was questioning him so hard, because they knew he should have been there. But he was there because he was more concerned with pleasing himself than he was doing the work that God has for him to do. So when you don't have the Lord on the throne of your heart, when God is not king, you will easily agree to doing things that you know you're not supposed to do. And that's what happened with this Levite here. He knew he wasn't supposed to be doing those. He knew he wasn't supposed to be there. He was not supposed to be a priest for no one man. He was supposed to be a priest for the whole nation. And he definitely wasn't supposed to be there being a priest for this man's idol. But yet he did all those things. Why? Because he wasn't close to the Lord. The Lord was not on the throne in his heart. And that's what happened to us. And that's what's happening to our nation. That's why we have the things going on that we have going on, because the Lord is not king in our lives anymore. The Lord is not king in our country. And he's, like I said, he's not even king in the churches anymore. You know, everybody's doing what they want to do that pleases themselves. You know what I'm saying? And when you don't have that close relationship with the Lord, like I said, you will easily give in. Whatever your flesh wants, it's going to get. You know what I'm saying? It's just like in the real story. I'm going to tell this story because I've told it before. But I mean, it's just like there was this one Indian guy had two dogs that he fought all the time. There was a white dog and a black dog. And so when he bet on each dog, and every time he bet, he always won. And one time the young kid asked, like, man, how do you always know which one's going to win? Because the same one didn't always win. One night the black dog will win, then another night the white dog will win. So they were like, how do you already know which one's going to win which night? He said, it's simple. He said, if I want the black dog to win and the white dog to lose, I'll feed the black dog and starve the white dog. He said, if I want the white dog to win and the black dog to lose, I'll feed the white dog and starve the black dog. He said, it's that simple. And it's the same with us. If we want our spirit to win out and our flesh to lose, then we'll feed our spirit. We'll go to church when we have the time. We'll spend time in prayer and in our word every single day. That's feeding your spirit. So your spirit is win out when you get in those situations where your flesh is trying to tempt you. But if you want your flesh to win, keep on feeding that flesh. Keep on missing church just for any old reason. You know what I'm saying? Keep on going to the girls every time they call, jump into your inbox. You got them sending you news and things of that nature. Keep on feeding that flesh. Then it's going to always win. So again, it's all about your relationship with the Lord. The closer you get to the Lord, the easier it is for you to tell that stuff no, because you know that it's going to take you out of a close relationship with the Lord. This Levite didn't do that. That's why he was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, doing some things he wasn't supposed to do. And it's going to get much worse as we go on. So the next verse it says, so number 12 was, you will easily agree to do things that you know you're not supposed to do when the Lord is not on the throne of your heart. So then the next verse, in verse 5, it says, so then they said, ask God whether or not our journey will be successful. Go in peace, the priest replied, for the Lord will go ahead of you on your journey. So right there, that's a reference back to number 8. This guy don't know what God is going to do for him because he obviously don't have a relationship with God. He's not even worshiping God. He's worshiping an idol. So he don't know what God is going to do for him, but he just lied to him and told him, go ahead on your journey. God's going to prosper you. So that's a reference back to number 8. Number 8 from last week is we have become a nation of blind followers following blind leaders. See, he's supposed to be a leader. That's why they went to him. He's the Levite. Again, if you understand Old Testament, you understand the goal, the task that was assigned to the Levites and the people in the lineage of Moses and the tribe of Levi and everybody in that lineage. They were supposed to be the leaders. They were the religious leaders. They were the dedicated religious leaders of the time. So they were the ones that's supposed to speak for God. They was the ones supposed to teach people the concepts of God, the laws of God, the commands of God. That's what the Levite's job was. So when they see this Levite, they're like, well, let's ask this Levite what we should do. And he tell them, oh, go ahead, God's going to be with you. But guess what? He's not even serving God. He's not even serving the right. He's serving a God, but he's not serving the right God. So now you got a blind leader. You got blind followers following a blind leader. And he's going to tell them to go off and do some stuff that they not supposed to do. Because watch what they going to go do. So it says, so the 5 men went on their, the five men went on to the town of Laish, where they noticed the people living carefree lives like the Sidonians. They were peaceful and secure, and the people were also wealthy because their land was very fertile. And they lived a great distance from Sidon and had no allies nearby. Now, right there, I told y'all there's going to be a couple of instances where we're going to go to King James. Right there, we're going to go to King James because the way they translate that, it kind of takes away. It said the people were wealthy because their land was fertile. But what the King James Version say, it says, he said, then the 5 men departed and came to Laish and saw the people that were therein, how they dwelt careless after the manner of the Zidonians. Quiet and secure, and here you go. And there was no magistrate in the land that might put them to shame in anything. So what is that saying? They were so rich and they were so well off that they did what they wanted to, and there was nobody even there to tell them that that was wrong. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because they became apathetic. So number 13 is this. When you don't have the Lord when God is not a king, and when he's not on the throne of your life, you become apathetic. What is apathetic? Y'all remember this? You know, we were going through, at the beginning, we was going through the vicious cycle, and it was humbleness, blessings, apathy, and destruction. And apathy is when you have so much you just don't care anymore. So so the definition of apathy is a lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. So basically what they was saying, they was living so good. Everything was so good for them. Everything was going so good. They had so much that they didn't even care. They didn't even care about their own safety. You see what I'm saying? They didn't even care that, you know what I'm saying, that they was leaving themselves open to attack. You know, they didn't even care that they didn't have, they thought they were secure because they had all this money and wealth. Because you notice they said they didn't even have nobody around. They didn't even stay close to nobody. They didn't even have no friends. So if they got in some trouble, then they didn't even have nobody come help them. Why? Because they had became apathetic. They no longer cared. They didn't care about the things of God. And that's what's happening to our nation. We're apathetic. That's why when you see, you know what I'm saying, my kids sometimes, you know, and I try not to be like that because I try to just sit there and enjoy, because we watch little shows together, little movies together and stuff like that. And I try not to ruin it for them, but it bothers me when I see Disney and they putting gay stuff into the cartoons. You know what I'm saying? No, it's just blatantly there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if y'all probably don't know what I'm talking about, y'all older people, but you know what I'm saying? Like, when you having kids and grandkids, you end up watching a lot of kids shows. I can't just go watch what I want to watch. I got to watch something that's going to keep them interested. So I'm seeing all the kid movies and stuff, and I actually love it. I ain't gonna lie. I enjoy my grandkids come over because I know we're going to be sitting here watching kid movies all weekend, and I get an excuse to sit there and watch these kid movies. But like, no, y'all remember some years back, there was a movie came out called The Incredibles. Love The Incredibles. Great movie. I love The Incredibles. Great movie. So when they came out part 2, which I think it came out like 10 years later or something, I can't remember the exact timeline, but I was so excited about it. And then I watched it, and it was horrible. I couldn't even enjoy it. The whole movie is just a big proper feminist, homosexual propaganda film. The whole thing. You know what I'm saying? So the kids like, well, no, it ain't that bad. It is that bad. You know what I'm saying? Like I say something, I see something, and I say something about it, and they just be like, well, it's not that big of a deal. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we do. We become apathetic to where when we see wrong, we see somebody portraying wrong, we see somebody teaching wrong, we see somebody doing wrong. Oh, it's not a big deal. Mind your own business. Let people have what they want to have. See, that's apathy. You see what I'm saying? And if y'all remember in the vicious cycle, what happened when you got apathetic? The next step was destruction. And we're going to see that's going to happen to these people. These people are apathetic. They are so rich. You know what I'm saying? They had so much. Their land was so good that they were just out living carefree lives, didn't care about anything, doing what they wanted to do. And that's why I wanted to read the King James Version, because it said there was no magistrate. And the magistrate, you think of them as like the police, almost, or kind of like some kind of governing body to say, hey, don't do this or don't do that kind of thing. That's what a magistrate is, some kind of governing body. You know what I'm saying? If you look at like, I think it's like English films or something, they always had a magistrate, which was like the sheriff kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But it was basically some governing body, some authority to say, hey, you shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. So according to King James, they didn't even have anybody say, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. So they just did what they wanted to. You know what I'm saying? Whatever felt good to them, they did it. You know, they lived carefree. They didn't care about what was going on in the world at all. And that's what's happened to us. You know what I'm saying? So many, that's why you got, you know what I'm saying, churches that has, you know, that has homosexual pastors. You know what I'm saying? If you go down to the church, I went down, I was, remember a year or so ago, it might be a couple of years, I was riding through downtown on West End, and it's a huge, I think it's a Methodist church there. And they got a big old rainbow flag hanging on the church. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, oh, that's cool, that they're accepting all that. What does God say about that thing? Yes, the homosexual come to church. I've led homosexual people to the Lord. I have homosexual people in my ministry that I minister to, but we're not supposed to be celebrating it. You know what I'm saying? It said, have no shame. We're not supposed to be celebrating it. You know what I'm saying? There used to be a moment, you know what I'm saying, when homosexuality, it used to be so bad. When we was closer to God, when we was a nation that was close to God, they wouldn't even mention the word homosexuality. They wouldn't even bring it up. You know what I'm saying? They called it the sin that we dare not mention. That's how bad it was. Now they have freaking parades. They have whole months where they celebrate the stuff, where they celebrate the sin. You see what I'm saying? So if we become so apathetic that it's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? But me being a straight man, if I want to go out and have parades and you know what I'm saying, have naked dolls and I just brag on how much I have sex with women, I'll be, you know what I'm saying, I'll be a pervert. You know what I'm saying? I'll be an outcast. That's disgusting. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's all, because that's what homosexuality is who you have sex with. Why does it matter to anybody else? If you don't tell nobody, nobody would know. But the fact that you putting flags up and you going out and you having parades and having celebration to celebrate it, is you telling people, hey, I'm a man and I like having sex with other men. Or I'm a woman and I like, that's not even really my business. Why do I care? You see what I'm saying? And they used to be ashamed, though. People wouldn't dare talk about that stuff. But now, like I said, they celebrate it because we become apathetic. We become carefree. Long as you got your money in your bank account, long as you still got your food in your refrigerator, long as everything going, you don't care that the world is going to hell in the handbasket with gasoline draws on. You don't care. You ain't going to speak up. Well, whatever. I can't do that. It bothers me. It bothers me, like I said, when I'm watching a kid's movie and they got something homosexual. Like I had a situation and it made me so mad because I'm the type of person, I have to finish what I start. That's just me. It's one of my things. I don't know if it's OCD or what. But when I start something, I have to finish it, whether it's a book, a movie, series, or whatever. And I'll never forget, I was reading these books. There was the Percy Jackson, I don't know, and it's on like Greek and Roman mythology or whatever. So I'm reading these books. I used to read those books. Reading one before I started reading. Before I started, gotten Facebook on my phone and all that. I used to just read books while I was on the toilet, and those are the books I read while I was sitting on the toilet. And man, I went through all of them. They had a series. They had like, I'm talking about, it's like, I want to say 12 or 16 books or something like that. So I had read all of them, and it might be more, it might be less, I'm not sure, but it was about, I know it was more than 10. So I had read all of them, and we got to the book right before the very last book. The book right before, and I done read, let's just say 16. I done read 14 of these books already. I get to book 15, and just out of the blue, for absolutely no reason, it had nothing to do with the story at all, they make one of the main characters gay. You know what I'm saying? And I was so upset, because like, man, what did that happen? It had nothing. It absolutely had no outcome on the story whatsoever that this guy was gay. But they just threw it out there because they want to put that out there. And it made me upset because I was so invested. I had to finish how the story was going to go. So I was so I had to begrudgingly read it because I couldn't help not reading it because I was right there at the end. And I want to know how I finished. Now, I know some of you godly people would be like, well, I would just put it down right then and there. Well, I'm not that strong. I have to finish what I start. But it made me so upset because they went this whole story. They never at any point hinted toward this guy being gay until the very last book, and they make one of the main guys gay. You know what I'm saying? That bothers me because I know they did it because of this agenda that they want to push on our kids and they want to push on our country because they want to pull us away from God. And see, when you become apathetic, oh, that's no big deal. It won't bother you, but that bothers me. It bothers me when like I said, when I see the cartoon and I see Disney with these real heavy homosexual undertones and transgender undertones. They try to push that stuff. I think, matter of fact, it's some following going right now where people are trying to get Disney banned or whatever because of what they're doing. And they doing it blatant. They like, yeah, we're pushing it. And you know what I'm saying? And nobody cares because we become apathetic. And we don't realize because we become apathetic, it leads to our destruction. Watch what happened. So you got these people here. They living in this land, this good land. They got so much money that they become apathetic. And these people from Dan come and they see them. They see, oh, they apathetic. They don't care about nothing. They ain't even got no friends. So watch what they say. So in verse 18 it says, when the men returned to Zorah and Eshtaol, their relatives asked them, what did you find? And the men replied, let's attack. We have seen the land, and it is very good, and you should not hesitate to go and take the possession of it. When you get there, you will find the people living carefree lives. In other words, they're apathetic. God has given us a spacious and fertile land, lacking in nothing. So he's like, man, let's go attack them right now. They don't care about nothing. They ain't got no defense. They ain't got nothing. We just go in there and take it. We won't even have to put up a struggle. See what I'm saying? So what happened was, excuse me, y'all, because they became apathetic, what happened is when you become apathetic, you leave yourself open to attacks. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm talking about now this is going to be an actual, a physical attack. They're going to go to war and they pretty much going to wipe these people out. We're going to see in the next few verses and take their land. But when you become apathetic, you're no longer concerned with the things of God. When you're no longer concerned that the word of God is not being preached. The word of God is the commandments of God is not being followed. When you become apathetic and you're no longer concerned with those things, then guess what? You open yourself up to attacks. You know what I'm saying? Y'all remember when we went through the story of Samson. What happened? Every time Samson almost got killed or almost got captured or something bad, like even when the lion attacked him, which he's famous for because, he ripped the jaws of the lions apart. You know what I'm saying? What was he at when it happened? He was over near a vineyard, somewhere he wasn't supposed to be at. You see what I'm saying? He wasn't following the command of God. As a Nazarite, he was commanded not to be near grapes, not to eat grapes, not to be around grapes, not to touch grapes. But he was there around those grapes because he had no concern for the things of God because he was doing what he wanted to do. So what happened? The lion attacked him. And that's what you don't realize. When we get apathetic and you get away from the word of God and you get away from the commands of God and doing the things of God, you're opening yourself up for attacks. You know what I'm saying? And you open yourself up for attack from the enemies that want what you have, or what they want. And what you don't realize, it's not even a material thing. What they really want is your peace. They want the peace that you have in your life. They want the stability that you have in your life. But when you get so carefree that you don't care about the things of God no more, you open yourself up to attacks and you're going to end up losing those things. And that's what's going to happen to these people. They was apathetic. So when the dude came in, oh, they apathetic. Let's get them. Because what does it say about the devil? It said the devil walks about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. How do he know who he may devour? He looks for the ones that become apathetic, and because of their apathy, they've gotten out of the will of God. Because he knows, guess what? They no longer have God's grace on them. They no longer, like I was telling you, in point number 10, they no longer have those blessings of God on them. You remember, again, I think I brought this up last time, when the devil wanted to attack Job, what did he tell God? Oh, well, take that hedge of protection around, I bet I can get him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you take that hedge of protection. Why did Job have that hedge of protection? Because you saw what God said. He was a faithful man. He eschewed evil. You know what I'm saying? He spent time with God. You know what I'm saying? Said not only did he pray for himself, he prayed for his family. He prayed for his kids in case they cursed God in his heart. He was a faithful man. So because he was so faithful, he had that wall of protection around him that the devil couldn't get to. See, the devil knows when you're out of the will of God. And that's when he'll come and attack you when you're out of the will of God, and you open yourself up to those attacks by becoming apathetic. And that's what happened to these people here. They was living so good for so long and was so wealthy that they just completely forgot about everything. You know what I'm saying? They pretty forgot about everything, and that's what happened to us. Everything is so good, and we got so much, and everybody's so happy, and you can just pull up, take your phone out and just pull up and look at anything and Google anything you want to in this world, and you don't want nobody to mess with your internet or mess with your phone or mess with that food you got in the refrigerator, so you just let anything go by because you don't want to ruffle no waves, ruffle no feathers, because you don't want to get your stuff shut down or whatever. You see what I'm saying? That's what happened when you become apathetic. And because of that, you open yourself up to attacks. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we've done in this country. We're wide open for attacks because we've gotten so far away from God. I'm telling y'all think it's going to keep on going like this and we just going to keep on getting by? If he destroys Sodom and Gomorrah, what kind of God or what kind of just God would he be if he allow us to keep doing the things that we're doing? He allow us to keep on perpetrating the things that we're perpetrating. He allow us to keep on promoting the stuff that we're promoting, and he does nothing to us. That wouldn't be a righteous God at all. And we know our God is righteous. So it might not have happened yet, but it's going to happen. Now, again, and y'all heard me say this before. Now, in Sodom and Gomorrah, they could have prevented it if they had 10 faithful people there, and God can find 10 faithful ones, so that's why they was destroyed. So I'm guessing the only reason why we haven't destroyed, I don't know what our number is for America, but apparently we still have enough. But what about 20 years from now? Especially with the direction we're going. You know what I'm saying? You can't even pray in schools. You can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't even, you want to start an argument? The quickest way to start an argument, get on Facebook and say something about God. I promise you it'll start an argument so quick. How good God is or something like that. Man, you start arguments quicker than anything. It's like throwing a lit match into a can of gasoline. It explodes so quick. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, where we're going to be, we might have a number now to keep us from going under, but what is that number and how close are we to it? And I imagine we don't have very many over it. You know what I'm saying? If the line was 10, you know what I'm saying? I know it would probably make more than 10 because we're a way bigger nation, but let's say if it was 10, I'm pretty sure right now we're probably sitting around 12 or 13. It ain't that many. We're not far from it. And like I said, over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, when this generation here dies off, where are we going to be at? When my grandkids get up and get my age, what kind of situation this country going to be in? You know what I'm saying? We actually invite in communism now, which we know is against religion. The government becomes our religion. And that's what our government is becoming slowly but surely. I never thought I'd see today, but we're seeing it right before our very eyes. Why? Because we become apathetic, and therefore we open ourselves up for attacks, and that's why the devil is working the way he is. That's why things is declining so quickly. You know what I'm saying? Because we've opened ourselves to attacks because we're no longer concerned with the things of God. We're only concerned with things that make us happy and make us comfortable. You know what I'm saying? To make us feel good about ourselves. That's our only concern. And because of that, we have opened our country up to attacks. So number 14, you leave yourself open to attacks when you become apathetic and you don't have the Lord on the throne in your heart. You open yourself up to attack. But when God is on that throne, the devil going to try to attack. He going to throw some stuff at you. He going to throw some roadblocks at you, try to throw you off your thing, throw you off your game, get you to stop. But you just keep on going because you know God got your back. You know, so I had plenty of times I could have threw my hands up and gave up, but I keep on going because I know God got my back. You know what I'm saying? So watch what happened. So because these people was apathetic, they opened themselves up to attacks, and watch what happened. So it said in verse 11. So it says, so the 600 warriors from the tribe of Dan set out from Zorah and Eshtaol. They camped at a place west of Kiriath Jearim in Judah, which is called Mahanadan to this day. Then they went up into the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah. So again, they went back to this Micah guy. They on their journey, they stopped back by there. So it said the 5 men who had scouted out the land around Lachish said to the others, there is a shrine here with a sacred ephod, some household idols, and a carved image, and a cast idol. It's obvious what we ought to do. Now, when you hear that, you think, okay, these are people of God. You know, so they already know the Levite is here, so we know they have some general knowledge of God. They know that they talking about these things. They know these things not supposed to be here. They said it's obvious what we ought to do. So you think like, oh, so they gonna rise up and they gonna destroy these idols and they gonna get things back right. You know what I'm saying? Make sure they destroy these idols so this idol don't pollute this land, because they know this is something they're not supposed to be doing. That's what it sounds like, right? Because it said it's obvious what we ought to do. So you thinking, I know when I first read that, I'm thinking, oh, these are people of God. They're going to go in there. They're going to destroy these idols. And they're going to maybe kill this Levite. Because that's what most time did if you look back in the Old Testament, whenever they told, like we're about to get into Kings in a little bit. And you'll see that whenever people, there was a priest of the idol worshipers, when they destroyed those idols, they also killed the priests as well, because they was the one that was basically putting that bad propaganda out there. So it says, so it's obvious what we should do. So you're thinking, so common sense would be, we're people of God. They got idols in the land. We know that's bad for our land. We're going to destroy it. So what happens? In verse 15 it says, so the 5 men went over to Micah's house where the young Levite lived and greeted him kindly. Now, as the 600 warriors from the tribe of Dan stood outside, just outside the gate, then guess what they did? Then the 5 spies entered the shrine and took the carved image, the sacred ephod, and the household idols, and the cast idols. So what they do? So instead of destroying it, what they wouldn't do? They went and took it for themselves. They took it for themselves. So number 15 is this. This is another thing that happens. This is why, and honestly, like I said, y'all, when you see, people can't decide which bathroom they're supposed to use, and it becomes an issue which bathroom you're supposed to go. It's become the issue whether you're a boy or a girl, and people call themselves non-binary. You're like, how can it should be so obvious? It's obvious what you should do. It's obvious if you was born with the male genitalia, you go into the male bathroom. It's obvious. It should be obvious that if you were born with female genitalia, you go into the female bathroom. It's obvious if you're a human being that you are male or female. You're not non-binary. These things should be obvious. But what happens when God is not king, when God is on the throne, number 15 is what happened. And that is we lack common sense I got common sense / wisdom. You don't have wisdom. Common sense will tell you, like I said, which bathroom you're supposed to go in. Common sense will tell you that this is not something that we should be legalized because the Lord said that it was an abomination. Common sense should tell you these things. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't have God, because what is wisdom? Because common sense is basically wisdom. It's another word for wisdom. And what is wisdom? What is the beginning of wisdom? You go to Proverbs. What do Proverbs say about wisdom? It says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And what did it say at the beginning of this chapter? Now, in those days, Israel had no king. So if they didn't have no king, that meant God wasn't on the throne, which means what? They didn't have any fear of the Lord. So they didn't have any common sense. So right here, they got a situation. They got an opportunity to make things right. They got an opportunity to take these idols out of this man's house and destroy them before it pollutes the land. And what they do, they go and take them for themselves. See, you would think they say, it's obvious what we ought to do. Yes, it's obvious that y'all need to destroy this stuff. Y'all need to get rid of it. You definitely don't need to worship yourself. But what they do, they went and steal it for themselves because they had no wisdom. They had no common sense. So even though they have a situation where it's obvious what they should do, it really wasn't obvious because they didn't have a relationship with the Lord. Because the Lord is not on the throne in their hearts. And that's what happens to us. So that's why I say when you see this society, when you see things that they're debating on, you know what I'm saying? When they're debating on when can they kill a child with abortion, that shouldn't be a debate. Because the child, that being, or I don't want to call it a fetus or whatever because it makes it seem like it wasn't human, but that human being becomes a human being at the point of conception. You know what I'm saying? You can go through the Bible and prove that. You know what I'm saying? At the point of conception, that is now a human being. Because if it wasn't a living human being, you wouldn't have to go and take some pill or have some surgery to kill it. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have to take that pill or have that surgery, what's it going to do? It's going to thrive and it's going to grow. Now, of course, there's a possibility of a miscarriage and things of that nature. But if you're a healthy person, a healthy young lady, and everything is functioning correctly, and you don't have any kind of disease or disorder that will cause you to miscarriage on a regular basis, then you should be able to, once you're impregnated, that baby should go full term. You know what I'm saying? Of course, like I said, yes, stuff happens naturally, but those are natural occurrences. You shouldn't have to go take some pill or have some surgery to get rid of it. That's obvious. You know what I'm saying? But yet, look how many court cases go, and states making laws either against it or for it. It should be obvious, like, hey, if you go have an abortion, you're murdering a child. That should be obvious. But it's not obvious if you don't have God on the throne. You see what I'm saying? It's obvious that if there's an idol there, then we should destroy it and not worship it ourselves. It should be obvious, but it's not obvious if God is not on the throne. See what you're saying? Why? Because they have no common sense. They have no wisdom. So things that should be obvious is not obvious because you don't have wisdom, because you don't have God guiding you in the right direction. And that's what we see here, y'all. This right here, this story, again, it sounds silly. It's like, how can these people be this dumb? But this is the world without God. This is the world when God is not, this is the world where God is not king. This is the world when God is not on the throne in our hearts. These are the kind of things that happen. And that's the world that we're living in right now. That's the world we're looking at. We're living in a world when God is not on the throne. And again, I don't know how much longer we got that we're going to be survived going in this direction. You know what I'm saying? But it's not looking good. And whatever happens, whatever punishment that we got building up because of our consistent foolishness, whenever it happens, it's going to happen. It's going to hit the fan and everybody's going to be affected. Nobody's going to escape. The rich ain't going to escape. The poor ain't going to escape. Everybody's going to have to pay for it. because we went so long doing what we want to do instead of doing what God will have us to do. And we have lacked the common sense and the wisdom to realize how far away we've gotten and turn back before it's too late. You know what I'm saying? That's why I always pray for revival. So maybe this country will open up our eyes, come back together as a nation, and realize how far away from God we've gotten and get back to it. You know what I'm saying? That's why I pray all the time for that. But it's so hard to do that. It's so hard to do that when we don't have God on the throne, because we don't have the common sense or the wisdom to see that we need to do it. So we see these guys here faced with an obvious choice of what they should do, knowing that they're Israelites and they're not supposed to worship idols. But what do? They go and steal the idols for themselves. Why? Because we have a lack of common sense and wisdom when God is not on the throne. So then in the next verse, it says in verse 18, so it says, so when the priest saw the men carrying all the sacred object out of Michael's shrine, he said, what are you doing? Be quiet and come with us, they said. Be a father and a priest to all of us. That's just so silly. When I read this, just knowing the law, just like, this is ridiculous that this is even, anyway, be quiet and come with us, they said. Be a father and a priest to all of us. Isn't it better to be a priest for an entire tribe of Israel than just for a household of one man? The young priest was quite happy to go with them, so he took along the sacred ephod, the household idols, and the carved image. And they started on their way again, placing their children, livestock, and possessions in front of them. What happened? Something should have been obvious. What they do? They went and stole the idols to worship them themselves. So once again, we got two things happening here. We got a reference back to number 8. Once again, you got the blind leading the blind. You got this Levite who's supposed to be, again, he's supposed to be the authority when it comes to the things of God and commands of God. He's supposed to be the authority figure, and yet he leading them down the path to where they're going away from God. But also, this is going to bring us to point number 16 as well. Number 16 is this. When God is not on the throne, when God is not king, when God is not on the throne in our heart and in our nation and our lives, then number 16 is this. We lack any concepts of moral principles. They have no concept. What they did right there was so disrespectful. They have, when you got a nation that's no longer giving their heart to God, there's no honor anymore. There's no appreciation for something that people do for you. The people don't appreciate. There's no gratitude for anything. No respect for others or their property. Because you gotta understand, first of all, these guys came by and they stayed at this man's house, and now they robbing him. You see what I'm saying? This Levite, he wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. This man that gave him a place to stay, gave him a salary and everything. And at the first moment, an opportunity came along for him to have something better. Guess what he did? He left. See what I'm saying? No stability. What are we talking about? He just went with the wind. And you notice what it said? It says, he said the young priest was quite happy to go with them. Now, he had already made the agreement with Michael to be his priest. So had he been a man of his word, had he had any honor, you know what I'm saying? Had he had a relation with God and had any honor, when they told him that, even if, you know, he couldn't fight them for that stuff, but he still would have stayed loyal to the guy that he made the agreement with. But it shows you we have no concepts of moral principles no more. I hear it all the time, man, these kids have no respect. They have no morals. You know what I'm saying? When you see the way kids talk to adults nowadays, you hardly ever hear a kid say yes, sir, or no, ma'am anymore. You know what I'm saying? You hardly ever see a kid, you know what I'm saying, if they see somebody coming through the door, or older person come through the door, they'll step back and let the older person go ahead. You know what I'm saying? Like even at our church, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, our church ain't perfect. Even our church, the priest, every time we have like some kind of dinner or something, the pastor have to announce, hey kids, let the adults go first. That should be known. You know what I'm saying? That should be known. The preacher shouldn't have to announce to let the kids go first. They should have enough respect and honor for the older people for them to do that, to know to do that. But they don't no more, because there's no more. We always say, man, these kids ain't got no home training. They don't, because nobody is teaching the Lord anymore. Y'all give me 1 second. My throat getting dry. I'm talking too much. But they have no home training. They have no respect for property of others. Like I was riding down the other day, and I was riding through Nashville. I had to go down to Nashville the other day, and I was riding down there, and there's some apartments they built, some condos, and I'm pretty sure because it's Nashville, it's pretty expensive. And then right on the side, on the side, we see spray paint. Somebody then put graffiti all over these brand new homes. You know what I'm saying? No respect. Why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Brand new home. You go through the signs, something that everybody do. If you live in this city, then you should want the city to prosper. You should want the city to have a good image. But the very signs that people have to follow to get to where they going got spray paint all over. People in spray, they paint. It's somebody, I don't know who it is, but it's somebody named Vern. And they spray painted just about every place down there. Now, you going to Nashville, like around the TSU area, in that area, man, just about everything in that area got the word, the name Vern wrote on it. You know what I'm saying? Just all over it, in black spray paint, black and blue spray paint. That's so disrespectful. Why are we doing stuff like that? Why did they have this? Those people put $1,000 of their hard-earned money into building something. They try to build something nice, and somebody just come destroy it to write their name on it. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because there's no respect no more. No reward. These people came. This guy opened up his house to them, gave them a place to stay, sheltered them. You know what I'm saying? This Levite sheltered him, gave him a salary. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to run away from the Lord anyway, even gave him a little shelter away from the Lord. And what did he do? The moment these other guys came and said, hey, instead of being give him a bigger position, instead of just being a priest to one man, you could be a priest to a whole nation. All right, let's go. You know what I'm saying? And he went and helped them steal from this man's house that just showed them all that hospitality. No gratitude at all. No appreciation at all. That's why God don't bless us more. Because how many times, and y'all know that I know I've done it before, you sit there and you need something and you go to God, oh God, please, Father God, give me this, and Father God, let this work out, and Father God, give me this, I need this, and then God give it to you. How often do you go back and thank him just as much as you was praying for him, begging for it? You know what I'm saying? You beg him for 4 or 5 days for him to give you something, and then he get it to you, and you might thank him. You might think of enough to thank him, but most likely you don't. You know what I'm saying? And even if you do, you're not going to thank him every single day. I thank God every day for my salvation. You know what I'm saying? I thank God every day for this house I have that I'm able to stay. I thank God every day for my vehicles. I thank God every day for my family. I thank God every day for this church. I thank God every day for this word. Why? Because I appreciate those things. I'm so grateful for him giving me those things because it's helped me be able to make it through in this life. You see what I'm saying? And we don't do that. We're not grateful anymore. We have no honor. You know, even with thieves, even when people stole, you know, they used to say, you know what I'm saying, back in the game, you know, y'all pretty sure I heard there was honor among thieves. They don't even have that anymore. You know, there is no more honor among thieves. All this killing and violence you see is usually because one thief is messing another one over. You see what I'm saying? There's no honor no more. There's no appreciation for things no more. There's no respect for people no more. There's no respect for the property of people. People private thing. People hack your page and put your pictures all out over the internet and stuff. There's no respect anymore. There's no moral concepts anywhere. There's no respect. There's no respect, no honor, no morals anymore at all because we've gotten away from God. We no longer understand those concepts. We no longer have those concepts. We no longer understand those concepts because that's how far away from God we've gotten. And that's what we got to understand. This is a world, this right here, what we're seeing is a world without the Lord. And this is what we want. This is what people are fighting for, to have a world without love. You don't see Christian stuff on TV anymore. You know what I'm saying? You don't see, I mean, even the cartoons back in the day, they was good. You know, I remember He-Man and all those guys fought. You know, he was fighting the same, He-Man was fighting Skeletor every week. Why? Because he never killed Skeletor. Skeletor tried some shady stuff. He-Man to stop him. And then, you know what I'm saying, let him go. That was it. And next week, they was back to the same thing. He forgave, let him go. That's not no more. All you see is violence in the cartoons. And now they pushing a whole homosexual agenda and things of that nature. Why? Because we have no concepts of moral. We have no moral principles anymore. There's no honor. There's no appreciation. There's no thank you, sir. No thank you, ma'am. No yes, sir. No yes, ma'am. No, nothing. These kids have absolutely no respect these days. That's why I told y'all earlier, I said in the video earlier, that's why I could not be a teacher these days. Because I've been and went up inside one of these kids' heads, you know what I'm saying, talking back, feel they can say what they want to say. If the teacher said this to me, you know what I'm saying, so I should be saying, it don't matter what the teacher said to you. You are a child. You know what I'm saying? You are a child. And that is an adult. Even if they're wrong, you go tell your parents, let your parents deal with them. It's not your place to talk back to an adult. But that's what the kids do these days because we have lost our moral principles. We no longer have moral principles in our life and in our society because God is no longer king in our society. He is no longer on the throne. And that's what happened. These guys are so disrespectful. He housed them. You know what I'm saying? Put them up, keep them out of the weather, gave them a place to rest on their journey. And what they do, they went back and robbed them. You know what I'm saying? But it's this guy's fault. Because watch what happened to him. This is why it happened to him. So in verse 22 it says, so when the people from the tribe of Dan were quite a distance from Micah's home, Micah and some of his neighbors came chasing after them. They were shouting as they caught up with them, and the men of Dan turned around and asked, "What do you want? Why have you called these men together and chased after us like this?" Now, of course, they knew what was going on. So watch what Micah say in verse 24. This shows you that he kind of brought this on himself, because he said, "What do you mean? What do I want?" Micah replied, "You've taken away all my gods and my priests, and I have nothing left." Did y'all get what he's saying there? He said, "You have taken away all my gods and my priests, and I have nothing left." Number 17 is this. This is another thing that happens when we don't put God on the throne. You will place your faith in the wrong people and the wrong things. He got his faith in this Levite because he was a Levite. He wasn't even a good Levite, because if he was a good Levite, that Levite would have told him, "Hey, you're not supposed to have that idol." That Levite would have straightened him out right off the bat. And he definitely wouldn't have stayed in his house and became his priest, because he knew that wasn't something he was supposed to be doing. See, he had his faith in the wrong people and the wrong thing. He had his faith in his wealth. He had his faith in these household gods that wasn't really gods at all. See there? And you got to understand, and because his gods was taken away, God can't be taken away from you. Now, you can leave God, but nobody can come in and just take your God away from you. If somebody can come in and take your God away from you, then you got the wrong God. And that's what he had. He had the wrong God. So that's why he's all upset, because he said, "You've taken away all my gods and my priests, and I have nothing left. You've taken everything from me." Why? Because his money and his things, because you remember, that was made out of silver. That was something that was made out of silver. It was a lot of money that went into that, because his mama, y'all remember the story from last week, his mama melted down some silver and made that. So that was an expensive thing, an item that he had that got taken away from him. So they took away everything from him. Why? Because his faith was in the wrong thing. He had his faith in his money. He had his faith in himself instead of having faith in the real God. And that's why he was able to take away. See, when you serve the Lord, then you don't have to worry about stuff down here on this earth. They can't take everything away from you. They can, like somebody can come in and they can repossess my vehicle, and they can take away my house, and they can take away all my clothes. They can take away everything. But as long as I still got God, I'm straight. See, this guy didn't have that. He didn't have the opportunity because he wasn't serving the right God. You see what I'm saying? And that's why Jesus, matter of fact, Jesus even told that if you go over you ain't got to go over. I'm going to reach out. What did Jesus say in Matthew chapter 6, 19 to 21? See, he wasn't following this concept. In Matthew chapter 6, 19 to 21, he says, "Don't store up your treasures here on earth, where they can be eaten by moths and get rusty, and where thieves can break in and steal. Store your treasures up in heaven, where they will never become moth-eaten or rusty, or where they will be safe from thieves. Wherever your treasure is, there your heart and thoughts will also be." So obviously, what was his treasure? His treasure was in his money. His treasure was in the things that he had obtained. You see what I'm saying? His treasure wasn't in the right place. And that's what happened when your heart is not in tune with the Lord. Your heart is not going to be in the right place. You're going to be always worried about those things that you can get, what you can get from this world. You're going to always be, again, worried about if it's women or men or money or drugs or alcohol or whatever it is. You're going to always be worried about those things. You know what I'm saying? That's where your heart, that's what you're going to spend all your time doing. You know what I'm saying? You can tell where your heart is at. Look at your life and see what you spend a majority of your free time doing. Whatever you spend a majority of your free time doing, that's where your heart is at. You know what I'm saying? I spend a majority of my free time running my mouth, telling people about Jesus. Any time I have, you know what I'm saying? Any free time I have, I'm usually in my Bible. I'm putting a lesson together somewhere. I'm on here preaching. I'm doing the Lost Sheep Ministry. Whatever time I have, every time I can scrounge up, I'm doing something for the Lord. You know, because that's where my heart is at. Where's your heart is at? See, his heart was in this priest. He thought, oh, because he's a Levite, he wasn't even a good Levite. He put his faith in his priest, and he put his faith in his idol. And look what happened when those things were gone. He lost everything. You see what I'm saying? And that's what happened with you. That's what happened to us. We don't realize we're on the verge of losing everything because we putting our faith into people and things that does not matter. We putting our faith into people and things that would only last for a certain amount of time. We're not putting our faith and trust into eternity anymore. We're putting our faith and trust into man. We're putting our faith and trust into material things. We're putting our faith and trust into things that is only going to be temporary, that's perishable. You know what I'm saying? That's what Jesus said. Don't put your, you know what I'm saying? Don't put your faith in this stuff. This stuff is gonna go. Either somebody can steal it, you know what I'm saying, and get messed up. Eventually it's gonna be gone. Put your faith in something that's gonna last forever, which is God, the work of God. That's why I spend so much time. I could really, you know what I'm saying, if I really wanted to put forth the effort, I can get a little. I remember at one point, I was going to sell insurance. You know, so I started, you know, I came across this situation where I was going to sell insurance. And like within the first, like, you know, 2-3 weeks, I already had like several people lined up. And it'd been a good thing. It'd been easy for them to do, but I couldn't do it. And the guy was like, man, well, you know, so you so good at this. Like, I've never seen anybody do this that quick. But all of my effort, I had to put a lot of time and effort into putting in the work to get those people, to get those clients. And I didn't want to spend it. I can be lucrative. This can be very lucrative for me, but I knew I wouldn't have to spend the majority of my time doing this work, selling this insurance, than being able to spend the majority of my time doing the work that God has for me to do. You see what I'm saying? And that wasn't my life. Wasn't what I wanted. That wasn't what my heart was at. I wanted to give my life, the time I have, the things that I do is all to build God's kingdom. If I'm not building God's kingdom, people tell me I'm proud of you all the time. I'm so glad you're doing this and all that. If what I'm doing is not building God's kingdom, then it's for nothing. It's for nothing because it's not going to last. It's temporary. You know what I'm saying? We got to start focusing on stuff that's going to be more permanent. Focus on, you know what I'm saying, get your rewards built up from heaven. But you can't do that if you don't have God on your throne. You're going to have your faith in these things, and then when it gets taken away, then guess what? You lost everything. And that's what happened to him. He had his faith in his money, and he had his faith in this man, and when they came and they took away his money, his man, and guess what? He's crying because he's lost everything. So then watch what happened. So he told him, no, you've taken away everything from me. So in verse 25, it said, the men of Dan said, watch what you say, because some of us are short-tempered, and they might get angry and kill you and your family. See, that's another thing that happens when God is not on the throne. Number 18 is this. You become fools who only know violence as a means to settle disputes. You know what I'm saying? They went straight to watch what you say. Now, they went into this man's house, disrespected this man's house, stole out his house after he put him up and took care of him. And when he come and confront him about it, they threatened to kill him and his family. You see what I'm saying? That's what happened when God is not on the throne. That's what happened when God is not king, because you read over Proverbs number 29 says what? Proverbs 29 verse 11 says, a fool always loses his temper, but a wise man holds it back. And what do they say? You better watch what you say before we lose. Some of us are short-tempered. In other words, some of us is fools here. So you watch what you say, because we might get real foolish and we might just go ahead and kill you and your whole family. You better watch your mouth. See, that's what happened when God is on the throne. Your very first instinct is to go to violence. And again, look at our kids. You know what I'm saying? They have violent games. They have a game called the Knockout King, where they just walk up to a random person and hit them as hard as they can, and they win a game, they knock them out. That's foolish. That's a nation without God. Just like we seeing these foolish things that these guys are doing. They went to the man's house, lived at the man's house, and then stole his gods, and then, you know what I'm saying, and threatened to kill him and his family when he confronted them about it. You know what I'm saying? This is a nation without God. You know what I'm saying? That's what the world is without God, and that's what we're living in. We see these things. Look at the violence going around. You know what I'm saying? Everything is violent. Look at the video games that people play. What's the most popular video game? And stuff like Assassin's Creed and Halo and you know what I'm saying, I don't play video games, but you know what I'm saying, most of them are shooting games where you're killing a large amount of people. Violent. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because we become fools, because we've gotten away from God. Again, the fool always loses his temper, but wise men hold it back. You know what I'm saying? The first thing they went to when he confronted them, even though they was in the wrong, you better watch what you say for everybody before I come in there and murk everybody. That's basically what he said. You better watch what you say. Don't be confronting me about this, because I kill you and your whole family. See what I'm saying? That's what happened. We become a violent nation. And look at the stuff that we watch. You know what I'm saying? Look what's in our shows. If it ain't got sex, it got violence. You rarely see just some kind of good wholesome. Now, there are some good wholesome shows out there, but it's not a lot. And you don't hear about them. You almost got to find them. Like, I got this one app, it's called PureFlix. And I was, you know what I'm saying, I watch that from time to time, especially during my fasting period, where it got just nothing but Christian shows on there. You know what I'm saying? Because it's hard pressed. If you watch any network TV, you watch any, you know what I'm saying, anything on the mainstream, any kind of mainstream media, it's going to be hard pressed for you to find something that don't have violence or sex in it. You know what I'm saying? What people will call a good show. It's going to have some kind of violence or sex, or it's going to have both of them. Most of the time it has both of them. Why? Because we become fools. We've gotten away from the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Because we want to give into our flesh instead of giving into our spirit. And when you give into your flesh, the first thing you want to do is you want to go to fisticuff. You want to fight. You want to hurt somebody because you don't care about others. I told y'all that in the last lesson. You don't care about others. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, a drug, that's right. That's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? You don't care about others. And that's what you got to understand. We have become fools that only know violence is a mean to settle disputes. What's going on? Look what's going on in Ukraine over there. You know what I'm saying? Instead of negotiating whatever, he just, well, I want this, so I'm just going to go take it. You see what I'm saying? Killing, and don't care how many lives that it's going to cost, whether his soldiers or the soldiers or the innocent people in their country that they invade. Don't care how many lives that's going to cost. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because we've become a nation where God is not king. So we don't care about the well-being of others. We only care about what we want and what we want to do. That's what happened when God is not king. So we see here, they became fools, and violence is the only way to settle their disputes. So then after that happened, Michael, you know what I'm saying? Again, Michael bought on himself. He the one brought the item to his house. So it says, so the men of Dan went on their way, and when Michael saw that there was too many of them for him to attack, he just turned around and went home. Lost everything. Why did he lose everything? Because his faith was in the wrong place. His faith was in the wrong thing. It was in the wrong person and the wrong thing. And that's why he lost everything, because his faith wasn't in God. If his faith was in God, he wouldn't have lost everything. He would have lost his material things, worldly things, but he wouldn't have lost everything. So then in verse 27, it says, then with Michael's idols and his, so it says, then, now check this out, to show you how far away from God they were. So it says, then with Michael's idols and his priests, the men of Dan came to the town of Laish, whose people were peaceful and secure, and they attacked and killed all the people and burned the town to the ground. There was no one to rescue the residents of the town, for they lived a great distance from Sidon and had no allies nearby. So again, what happened? Then what did I tell you? Why would they come that? What was they able to go attack that town? That town, because they had became apathetic. So number 19 is this as well. So number 19 is this. When God is not on the throne, you will misuse the name of God for your own personal benefit. Because you remember over there when they first discovered, when the people asked them about it, they're like, what should we do? They said, let's go attack. You know, God has given us this land. God is not giving y'all this land because obviously you don't even know God. You sitting here with idols. You got what it says. It said with Michael as their priest and with Michael's idol and his priest, they went and attacked this town. So God had nothing to do with this. This is something you did for your own selfish benefit. And that's what a lot of times we do. And that's why you see a lot of these mega churches, and when you see these preachers and they get caught embezzling money, and you see, you know what I'm saying, these preachers that get caught molesting children, that thing, it hurts the work of God, because you got these people in there that's using God's name to fulfill their own selfish desires. And that's what these men of Dan did. God wasn't with them when they went and did this. This was something they did. Now the people of Lachish brought on themselves because they had become apathetic. You know what I'm saying? They weren't even concerned with their own security, so it made it easy for them because they opened themselves up for attacks. But these men of Dan, they wouldn't attack these people and kill these people because this wasn't a part of the land that the Lord had promised them. You know what I'm saying? This was like, well, the Lord promised this land, and we can't occupy this, so we just gonna go find this other land. And oh well, these people, they all nice and secure. We just gonna take their land from them instead of going and fighting, putting God on the throne of their lives and letting God lead them into battle so they can clear the land that they were supposed to have, that was assigned to them. They went and took these other people's land. Why? Because they was misusing the name of God and say, oh, well, God told us to do this. God is gonna bless us. No, they was using God for their own personal benefit. You know what I'm saying? God didn't tell them to do that. They did that on their own, and they was using God as an excuse to go do it. And we've had so many wars that's happened for. You know what I'm saying? That's happened in so many wars. You know what I'm saying? You think about the Crusades back in the day, and all that, people have taken the word of God and used the word of God as a means for their own personal gain. You know what I'm saying? And you see that it happens a lot. Like I said, you see it still happen this day. You know what I'm saying? You get these big mega churches and people talk about, oh, just come on in and give your tithes and God is going to bless you and all that stuff. And the whole time they over there buying private planes and you know, big old mansions and all kind of cars and stuff. And they using the word of God for their own personal benefit because they have no fear of the Lord, because the Lord is not on the throne. You know what I'm saying? And when I see that, I get upset. But at the same time, no, there's going to be a day they're going to have to stand before the Lord. And they're going to ask him, why did you use my name to perpetrate these atrocities that you did? You know what I'm saying? They're going to have to pay for it. They might get away with it down here, but they're not going to get away with it forever. There's going to be a day they're going to have to pay for it. And I feel sorry for them. You know what I'm saying? But that's what these guys of Dan did. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have God on the throne in their life. They didn't know nothing about God. They there with a Levite, a wrong Levite that's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, and they got idols and they about to set up the shrine. Matter of fact, watch the next verse. Says, so this happened in the valley near Beth Rehob. And then the people of Dan, the tribe of Dan, rebuilt the town and lived there. And they renamed the town Dan after their ancestor Israel's son, but it had originally been called Laish. So then they set up the carved image, and they appointed Jonathan, son of Gershom, a descendant of Moses, as their priest. So you see, the Lord was not with them because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They said, though, they didn't take their image so they can destroy it. They took it so they can worship it. So this shows you that the Lord was not with them. Therefore, what they went and did, they didn't do that in the name of the Lord. They did that for themselves. You know what I'm saying? And we also see what it says, you know what I'm saying, when they took the town, they reference back to number 16. They have no concepts of moral principles. They took these people town instead of working to build their own town, like I said, working to clear their own land that the Lord told them to go clear. They went and took these other people's town because it was already set up, and they burned it down and rebuilt it for themselves. See, there are no moral principles anymore. And I know I'm kind of speeding through these last points because I'm about at the end of my time. I want to get this last point in, finish this chapter up. But we see they have no concepts of moral principles. They using the name of the Lord for their own personal benefit because, again, you know, they don't they're not with the Lord because they're worshiping the idol. But then also you see it says they set up the carved image and they appointed Jonathan, son of Gershom, a descendant of Moses, as their priest. So that's also a reference back to number 6. They're making up their own standards because if they follow the standards of the Lord, you know what I'm saying? Now, it sounds like, again, this is another one where I'm going to go take you to the King James because you're like, well, at least they got a Levite to do it because it said Jonathan, the son of Gershom, a descendant of Moses. But see, if you read the King James, that's why you got to be careful with these Bibles. That's why I always tell y'all, I do believe in King James, but I read out the New Living Translation. But if you read the New Living Translation, it says that, in the King James, it says, and the children of Dan set up the graven image, and Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. So see, that guy was from Manasseh. That Gershom wasn't the same Gershom from the tribe of the Levites, which was a descendant of Moses. I don't know, when they translated it, I don't know why they put that, because Moses did have a son named Gershom, but that's not the Gershom they're talking about. This Gershom was from Manasseh. So they didn't, from the tribe of Manasseh. So they didn't even put the rightful Levite in the office like they were supposed to. So again, it shows you these people weren't as of God, and they were just making up, doing what they wanted to do because they wanted to do it, making up their own standards because God was not king. But then it says, but you notice what it said there. It said they appointed this Gershom guy, and I'm not gonna say a descendant of Moses because he wasn't a descendant of Moses, but it says this. He said, this family continued as priests for the tribe of Dan until what? The exile. And there's going to be number 20. There's going to be my last point. I wanted to make sure I get through there because I'm right here in my 2 hours. I wanted to do an hour and a half, but it was too much. So number 20 is this. Number 20 is this. This is the last thing we got to understand for tonight, at least. We got to understand when God is not king, when God is not on the throne in our lives, you will walk a path that ultimately leads to your destruction. You know, you will walk a path that will ultimately lead to your destruction. Because what they did? They came in, they stole these people's land, burned it down, killed them all, took their land, set up the land for themselves, and then they set up these idols and start worshiping these idols. And it says that they was there until what? The exile. What is the exile? They mean eventually God got tired of their crap and he kicked them out. Because what have I told you? What happens after apathy? Destruction. So there came a point when I don't know exactly how long it was, but there came a point where God got tired of them and they messed, and he finally kicked them out of the land. He exiled them. So that means that some other people came in and they conquered the land and they kicked these Israelites, this tribe of Dan, out of the land because they was not worshiping the Lord. They was worshiping his idol. See, that's what happened when we take God off our throne. We put ourselves, and that's where we're at right now in this country. We are on a path that's going to lead to destruction. I mentioned it earlier. We are on a path that leads to destruction. And I believe the only reason why we haven't went through the destruction yet is because, like I said, whatever the number is, we still have them, but it's dwindling. It's dwindling. You know, it's dwindling. And I will hate to see where this country is going to be at a year or two from now. You know what I'm saying? Because right now we're on that path. We're on that path that's going to lead to destruction. If we don't have a great revival, if people don't open their eyes up and get back to the Lord before it's too late, come together as a nation as a whole and get back to the Lord before it's too late, this is not going to end well. The path that we on, the route that we on, whatever you want to call it, it's not going to end well. It's not going to be a good, something good. It's just like when we Samson. Y'all remember we went through 4 chapters looking at Samson and looking at all the silly stuff that he was doing, all the stuff that he was doing that he wasn't supposed to be doing. We was looking at all that. And what happened? What happened at the end with Samson? He ended up spending the last years of his life in jail with his eyes gouged out, and then he eventually was crushed under the weight of the Colosseum that he had pushed the pillars down and crushed himself and died surrounded by his enemies. The path that he was on, he has plenty of opportunity to turn back on that path, but he stayed on that path and ended in destruction. So you see, that's what happens when we take God off the throne. It started to put us on a path that's going to eventually lead to destruction, and that's where we at in this country. And I'm praying that the Lord will open up our eyes. That's why I do these lessons. If y'all are playing a part in that path, man, do your part. I pray these words will touch your heart, bring you under conviction, and anything you're doing that you know is putting you on that path or taking you away from the path that God has you on, I pray you get back to it. Because I'm telling you, at the end of that path, there's something waiting for you at the end of that path, and that thing that's waiting for you is not good. And then the last verse, very last verse, and it's going to be a reference, but watch what happens. So, you know what I'm saying? Remember, we've been going through all this. Remember, Michael's mom made the idols and all that. So then in verse 31, it says, so Michael's carved image was worshipped by the tribe of Dan as long as the tabernacle of God remained at Shiloh. You see what I'm saying? So while the tabernacle of God, which is where they were supposed to go and worship at, the tribe of Dan, they worship Michael's idol. So that takes us back to reference number 4 from last week. When we take God off the throne, when God is not on the throne in our lives, when he's not king, we corrupt our lives and the lives of everyone around us. So this man mom made him the idol just for him. But we see so far it corrupted him because his mama made it. So his mama made the idol. So it really started with her. The idol corrupted Micah. It corrupted the Levite. They ended up getting the work for him. And now it corrupted a whole nation because this whole nation is now worshiping this idol and got somebody that's not even a Levite as a priest. So a whole nation being corrupted because of one person's misdeed. One person casual relationship with the Lord led a whole nation into destruction. And of course it said they worshipped it until they was exiled. So this one person misdeeds, this one person casual relationship with the Lord, not really knowing the Lord, led a whole nation into destruction. And that's what happened in our nation. We are on a path to destruction because we have leaders, blind leaders, and we have blind followers following blind leaders, and don't realize that we're on the path. All of us are about to fall in the hole if we don't change our ways and put God back on the throne. So that's it, y'all. I had to kind of rush it at the end. I hope I didn't rush it too much and y'all still was able to get it. But I appreciate y'all always for joining me tonight. And I'm trying to definitely keep it. I was hoping to keep it on an hour and a half, but I'm definitely trying to keep it on the 2 hours. I got like a couple of minutes left. So let me go ahead and finish my announcements. Now, of course, this is chapter 18, so we got 3 more chapters. And if y'all think this chapter was crazy, we got another chapter next week that's even crazier. So if y'all love this one, definitely, I want y'all please tune in next week. We got another chapter that's really crazy. There's some crazy stuff happening. And you'll be like, man, how in the world can this go on? And how in the world can people think that this is okay to do? Well, it's because God is not on the throne. So God willing, next Monday, 7 o'clock, y'all be back here with me. I'll be here, God willing, and we'll go through chapter 19. And we got a very interesting story. And again, it's just a picture of what happens when God is not on the throne. You know what I'm saying? When God is not king and when he's not on the throne in our lives. So God willing, y'all be back with me next week and I'll do that lesson. Of course, y'all can, we'll be finishing this up in the next few weeks. So if y'all got any other area you want me to go in the story you want me to cover that I haven't covered yet, please reach out to me and let me know. And I'll work it into my lesson plan. Keep sharing the videos, telling people about it as well, so this ministry can grow. I think God has given me a great word, and I do my best to try to help people understand the importance of serving the Lord and being in that relationship with the Lord so we can get this world back to where it needs to be. So just please keep sharing the videos, tagging people in the videos, and telling people about the videos so this thing can continue to grow and so we can build the kingdom of God Of course, if you're watching this video, ain't not 100% sure that if you was dying, you was going to go to heaven, please reach out to me and let me know, and we can schedule some time that we can go over the gospel with you, so I can share the gospel with you so you'll know exactly what you need to know so you can get to heaven when you go through that door called death. And also, I do spiritual counseling, so if you got any kind of spiritual question in the biblical questions or just need to talk and get some stuff off your chest, please reach out to me and let me know. I will schedule some time for us to do that, and I'll do my best to guide you in the direction that I believe the Lord will have you to go. And as always, if you want to check out some of my old sermons, go to YouTube. I am behind by about 4 or 5 weeks, so I apologize. Hopefully, the last couple of weeks has been just insanely crazy. So hopefully this week I got a little bit more time and I'll be able to get some of the videos uploaded. But up until the last 6 weeks, everything is on there. So you want to check out some of my older videos, they're there. And hopefully I get my recent videos uploaded pretty soon. But go to youtube.com, God's Service / Lost Sheep Ministry. Type it in just like that with a space between each one, and it'll take you to my channel. And the reason why you have to do it like that, because people don't like to hear the truth. So I got like 44 subs. So if you just go in there and put in Jon Stewart, I'm not likely not going to pop up because I don't have that big of a following, because I like to tell the truth. So with that being said, thank y'all for joining me. I'm sorry for keeping you so long, but I just really pray that the message got across and that you're able to see, especially if this got some things going on in your life, that you'll be able to see what happens when God is not on the throne. And that's the whole point of these lessons. And like I said, God willing, next Monday night, 7 o'clock, I'll be back here to get to part 3 of When God is Not King. So I'm going and praying. I'm going to get out of here. Lord, thank you so much for watching over us. Thank you for this lesson tonight. Sorry for going over, but it's just I'm going with what your spirit gave me. And honestly, when I looked at it, I'm like, well, it's not much here. I should get through it pretty quick. But when your spirit takes over, man, you know, I just have to do what the spirit lead me to do. But I do thank you for your word. Thank you for giving us this example to follow so we can see that this is what this is. This is us, a clear picture of what the world will be like, what our lives will be like if we don't have you on the throne. Because as we can see from these people in these stories, the characters in these stories, and the things that they were doing, that you were not on the throne in their lives. And that's why they was doing anything that felt good to them, because there was no king in Israel. They didn't have no king. They didn't have no standards to follow. So they just did whatever felt good to them, and they gave in to their fleshly nature, Lord. So I pray that doesn't happen to us. I pray that you watch over this nation. Help us come together as a whole and open our eyes and see how far away from you we've gotten. Help us see how far off the foundation that we've gotten, so we can get back to you before it's too late and we go past that point of no return and we lose all those blessings that you have up in store for us. We ask you just continue to watch over this ministry, continue to help it grow, prosper, reach out to the community, change the lives of others, capture lost souls of me in. I pray you be with all my faithful listeners, Lord, those faithful ones that's here every week. Thank you for them. And I pray you can continue to encourage them to tune in, Lord. But more importantly, I just pray that they're being helped. I pray they're not faithful just to support me and make me feel good about myself, but I pray that they're faithful because they're being helped by these lessons. Because I can say, put the pretty speech together all I want and say all these wonderful quotes, but if it's not helping anybody, then I'm not doing my job, Lord. And I pray that these words are being spoken here, not just being spoken to sound good, but I pray they're being helped. People are taking them in. They're sinking into their hearts, and they're using them to build a closer relationship with you. So I thank you for this night. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this lesson. And thank you for letting your spirit use me to bring your word here tonight. And I ask you to continue to watch over us all, bless us and guide us all, and keep us safe so we can gather here once again to honor and glorify your holy name and spread your word. We love you and thank you for everything, and say this prayer in your wonderful son, Jesus' name. Amen. So I thank y'all again, my faithful ones. Thank y'all for being there. And I appreciate y'all, and I pray that y'all will be there next Monday, and we can get into this other crazy story of what happens when God is on the throne. But till the end, I love y'all. I'm going to pray for you. Y'all continue to pray for me. And remember, I always watch your back and pray. Peace.